morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. This is the public hearing and public meeting of the Committee of the Whole regarding resolutions number 240, 254, 240, 255, 240, 256, 240, 257, 240, 258, 240, 259, 240, 260, 240, 261, and 240, 262. Thank you for all being here today. Mr. Christmas, will you please take roll for attendance?
Councilman Squilla. Council Lady Gaudier. Councilman Jones. Councilman Young. Councilman Driscoll. Council Lady Lozada. Council Lady Bass. Councilman Phillips. Councilman O'Neill. Council Lady Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Thomas. Councilman Harity. Council Lady Ahmad. Council Lady Landau. Council Lady Brooks. Councilman O'Rourke. Council President Johnson.
President, thank you. A quorum of the committee is present, and this hearing is now called to order. Mr. Christmas, will you please read the title of the resolutions?
Resolution 240254, confirming the appointment of Crystal Cubbage to the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia. Resolution 240255, confirming the reappointment of Sarah Ashley Andrews to the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia. Resolution 240256, confirming the appointment of Joan Stern to the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia. Resolution 240257, confirming the reappointment of Reginald Streeter to the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia. 240258, confirming the appointment of Wanda Navalis to the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia. Resolution 240259, confirming the appointment of Whitney Jones to the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia. Resolution 240260, confirming the reappointment of Chow Wing Lam to the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia. Resolution 240261, confirming the reappointment of Joyce Wilkerson to the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia. And finally, Resolution 240262, confirming the appointment of Cheryl Harper to the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia. Resolution 240261 is being held.
Good morning, everyone. We will now begin the hearing regarding the school nominations for the School District of Philadelphia. We want to welcome you to City Council of Philadelphia. So we will begin testimony. So, Mr. Streeter, would you like to begin? 1 second. The chair recognizes Councilmember Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the members of our school board and all of the people in the listening public, the audience here today, as well as those viewing who have taken an interest in their government and specifically in their schools. Again, I'm Councilmember Isaiah Thomas. I've been the chair of the Education Committee for about 2 years now. But prior to being the chair of the Education Committee, I'm a product of the School District of Philadelphia. I graduated from public schools. My father is a retired teacher who taught over 40 years in the School District of Philadelphia, and I myself am a former teacher. I've taught everything from undergrad down to kindergarten, former athletic director, worked closely with the school district and still work closely with the school district because I still coach high school basketball. I'm still the president of the Coaches Association for the Public League for Boys Basketball, and I sit on the board for PIAA District 12. The reason I said all that is because I want to make what we're doing here today clear. As the chair of the Education Committee on City Council, I wear a lot of hats outside of City Council that has put me in a unique position to have a personal relationship with principals, with teachers, and most importantly, with students and families. I can argue that I spend more time in our schools based on the hats that I wear than most of the people sitting in the room right now because I'm constantly in the schools, whether I'm coaching games, running free summer programs, working on different initiatives to support young people and families. And so today's dialogue is 100% about children and families. And I want to make that very clear. In the midst of talking to my colleagues, in the midst of the work that we've done on the Education Committee, we have a lot of concerns around our schools. Council President, I've listened to you talk multiple times about outcomes. Why are our children not learning? I've listened to Councilmember Gilmore Richardson talk a lot about apprenticeship programs. Why are our young people not being put in a position, if they don't want to graduate from high school, where they can go into a quality apprenticeship program? And I commend her for her legislation to allow more points for young people who go to our CTE schools. We have new council members who are here who've been advocating, especially our district council members, for the schools in their neighborhood, no matter what type of school it is. They just want to assure a quality education. So at the end of the day, Council President, I thought it was important to frame today's conversation because as elected officials, we are held accountable by the people of Philadelphia. The people put us here, the people decide whether or not we're doing a good job, and the people determine if we get to stay here. And I think every one of my colleagues are here today to vote on behalf of the constituents that they represent and nothing more than that. With that being said, Council President, I'm looking forward to today's conversation. I'm going to be able to have the opportunity to ask questions of school board members who've been in the position for some time, but I'll say this to close out, Council President. Since I've been the chair of the Education Committee in September of 2022, not only is it the greatest honor I've ever had as it relates to a position, being an elected official, and you know firsthand how much this means to me, and I appreciate you for reappointing me as the chair of the Education Committee. Every single day, I work tirelessly to try to put us in a position to improve the quality of life of our children so we can ensure that no matter what zip code a child lives in, they have access to a quality education. So I'm looking forward to today's conversation, and I'm excited to continue the work that the Education Committee as a whole has done to advocate for families and children in need. Thank you, Council President. Thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity as the chair of the Education Committee. And again, I look forward to today's discussion.
You're welcome, Chairman Thomas. So actually, we're going to start with resolution number 240254, Ms. Crystal Cubbage.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, other members of the council. I'm honored that Mayor Parker nominated me to be a school board member and to be speaking with you today. What follows are a few highlights from my life and career that qualify me for this role, and some of the reasons why I applied to be on the board. I'm a proud Philadelphia native as well, educated in the city's public school system, and after graduating from Masterman, I studied physics at Lincoln University. I know a lot of students from the school system go to Lincoln University, and after my graduation, I began my career as an electronics engineer at NASA Glenn Research Center in Cleveland, Ohio. In search of more personally satisfying work, I decided to join the Peace Corps to serve as an education volunteer in Cameroon, West Africa. There, I discovered my passion for education. And shortly after returning to the States, because I'm not a trust fund baby, my parents are like, "What are you doing going to the Peace Corps? We thought we were done with you." But, you know, I returned to my job as an engineer. It wasn't satisfying enough, so I made the permanent switch to education. I changed my career from engineering to education and proceeded to teach some combination of physics, chemistry, and math at Girard College, the Shipley School, Green Street Friends School, and Germantown Friends School. Simultaneously, I began working with a mentor to create a 5-month program that took students on an identity development journey that culminated with summer travel to multiple countries in West Africa and Western Europe. It was called Journey to Freedom. Together, these experiences convinced me of the value of experiential education, and I'm happy to hear that some of the council members believe in that as well. It fueled my decision to pursue a master's degree in school leadership at Harvard's Graduate School of Education. Since graduating, I've worked at the education think tank Jobs for the Future, at Drexel University, the School District of Philadelphia, and now the Philadelphia Learning Collaborative. I've done everything from analyzing student performance data and grants management, to facilitating contract negotiations to open new schools, and convening groups of educators to write policy statements. Exposure to these environments has helped me to gain insight into what a healthy, functional school that prepares students to lead lives of meaning and purpose after graduation, what that looks like. During these years, I have developed skills in operations, collaboration, nonprofit leadership, and relationship cultivation and maintenance. My network in the city's education and nonprofit sectors is substantial. These factors qualify me to serve. I am particularly excited about that Mayor Parker is prioritizing teacher recruitment and retention. I believe that if we hire and retain the right teachers, they will educate and care for our children. I want to serve because I've been asked to. I have a lot to offer, and it is my responsibility to contribute to improving the quality of life in my hometown. More importantly, I know how extraordinary the children in Philadelphia are, and I know they deserve better than what they have been getting from our system. I want to be one of the ones with this impressive slate of nominees, particularly those who hold the institutional knowledge. I'm sitting next to two of them. There's Joyce Wilkerson and Chow Lam. One of those who helps heal the system that I believe can heal our children and ultimately transform our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to ask for Sarah Ashley Andrews.
Good morning, President Johnson and members of City Council. My name is Sarah Ashley Andrews. Thank you for the opportunity to testify regarding my nomination to the Board of Education. I was born and raised in North Philadelphia. My educational journey began at the Salvation Army Daycare Center. As my parents began to look for schools for my sister and I to attend, they felt my neighborhood school would not provide the safety or educational experience that we needed, as we would have to navigate through drug paraphernalia and crime-ridden streets to make it to school each day. My parents fought for me to obtain the educational experience they felt I deserved. That prepared me to stand ready to fight for the students of Philadelphia, ensuring that they receive the best educational experiences no matter their zip codes or no matter what school they attend, especially those students who sit at intersections where they are ignored and marginalized because of their complex and layered identities that give no framework for their existence. My belief has always been that our schools need to be lighthouses for our students, places where all students can feel safe, welcomed, and supported. As a proud graduate of the Philadelphia School District, I am an example of the type of success that students of Philadelphia can achieve. I attended General George A. McCall Elementary School from kindergarten to 8th grade. I am also a graduate of W.B. Saul High School. I have a firm belief that all students can learn and thrive in our school system, no matter their race or their zip code. This especially happens when we focus on their academic achievement and their well-being. I attended Bloomsburg University for 2 years, where I majored in mass communications. I hold a Bachelor of Arts degree in Biblical Studies with a minor in Human Services from Lancaster Bible College. I hold a Master of Science degree in counseling from Lincoln University, and I am also a licensed professional counselor. As a licensed professional counselor, I bring a unique approach to communication and decision-making. As a board, we are often faced with tough decisions. My special set of skills helps us ask processing questions, get to the root of the problem, and decide on a solution. Each of those decisions have had a direct focus on student achievement. For the past 2 years, I have been committed to board transparency, prioritizing student success, and focused on our students who most would throw away, such as our dropouts. I have helped to develop the vision for the School District of Philadelphia, adopted and supported Accelerate Philly, the superintendent's strategic plan to make Philadelphia the fastest improving large urban school district in the nation. Accelerate Philly has already produced great results for our students and our teachers. My experience as a current board member has equipped me with the necessary tools to further succeed in this position. As the youngest current board member of the Board of Education, In the Student Board Rep Liaison, I have been afforded the unique opportunity to engage with students on a level in which they feel comfortable sharing the truth. Some would say it is my skills as a therapist. However, I see it as a direct reflection of representation. Students can see themselves in me. I am the example of someone that they can mirror. And I look forward to moments of interacting with our students who can relate and feel safe when I show up. I have also had the opportunity to co-chair the Parent and Community Advisory Council for the past year. Within that year of my appointment, we have developed the mission and vision for PCAC. With my collaborative leadership skills, we have moved PCAC in a direction where members feel that their recommendations, suggestions, and opinions are heard. The members have become more engaged with the Board of Education, and that has helped us to share vital information with all communities all over Philadelphia. More than that, I have been committed to inspiring all students to greatness. I often remind students that they can be anything they want to be and help to give them the tools, mentorship, and connecting them to resources to do so. I have structured my life around this quote, which sums up who I am as a person. The most important thing is to try and inspire people so that they can be great at whatever they want to do. And that's by Kobe Bryant. In closing, I often reflect on Mayor Parker's vision to make Philadelphia the safest, cleanest, greenest big city. Without quality education, this vision will not come to pass. As a current board member, I am thankful that Mayor Parker chose 4 of us to continue this great work. And through the leadership of former President Joyce Wilkerson and current President Reginald Streeter, our progress speaks to the collective goals to improve district outcomes. This is working, as it was highlighted in the recent State of Education speech by Dr. Watlinson and recent highlights on post-pandemic achievements. This work speaks to our willingness to work together to achieve what are the best outcomes for students. It speaks to our emphasis on student achievement and will ultimately help create the city that Mayor Parker envisions. I would be honored to continue my tenure on the Board of Education as we are headed in the right direction. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
You're welcome. The chair now recognizes Reginald Streeter.
Good brother, Council
Chairman
President.
Reginald Streeter.
Good brother, Council President Johnson and esteemed members of the City Council. I stand before you today not merely as an individual, but as a member of a collective team, a slate that embodies the rich diversity and talent of our great city. And I am honored to seek reappointment to the Philadelphia Board of Education. I've come back for round 2. As a devoted servant leader, proud member of the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, by way of Roe Chapter, and practicing attorney, my commitment to service, leadership is in my bones, y'all, and advocacy has profoundly shaped my tenure on the Board of Education. I am grateful for the diligent efforts of the nominating panel, some of whom are here today. I also wish to thank our mayor for assembling such an impressive group of individuals for this slate in the yeoman's work that is ahead. Reflecting on my background, I'm reminded of my humble beginnings as a young black boy navigating housing security in this city of Philadelphia. It was through the unwavering support of my village that I cultivated a lifelong passion for learning and required the foundational tools necessary for success, Council President. School was my fortress of solitude, nourishment, and transformation, whether it's through the academic achievement, amazing teachers and principals like Gloria Pelzer at Germantown High School, or through working with Coach Hawkins playing football at Germantown High School, amazing teachers or access to extracurriculars. I truly believe that the whole child was educated, and that was me. And I'm no different than any of our babies in this city right here. This foundation provided me with a platform to return to school at age 27, y'all. After working 9 years mostly as a bartender at TGI Friday on City Ave, in front of AI, by the way. Graduate from law school and practice law as a plaintiff's attorney right now at Feldman Shepherd, helping people every day. I am consistent. Everything I do flows through my life, through my being, and is for the babies, and it's service. I have no skin in the game other than the baby and the one that's on the way, by the way. I love you, honey. I know she's watching. This foundation, I already went and said that part. Now, as one of Mayor Parker's 9 exceptional appointees to the Board of Education, I'm a living testament. Again, a living testament of the transformative power of our strong public education. Before I proceed, I will be remiss I wish to express my gratitude to the outgoing board members who are working tirelessly right now, right like this instant, to ensure a smooth transition while continuing to focus on student achievement, right? And the holistic education of children through the board's goals and guardrails. They have also been steadfast in managing public funds and supporting our remarkable, I mean remarkable, superintendent. We hired him with the support of the public because we engaged the public. I believe this slate is poised to build upon this momentum, which includes making tough decisions, even reversing them when necessary, just as the former board did, and just as I know this slate would, in the best interest of our students, our babies. And y'all wonder, why is he saying baby? Because I'm a papa, I'm a daddy, I'm a baba. These efforts have resulted in, among many other things, 13 out of 17 student achievement indicators on the rise. That doesn't sound like status quo to me. On the rise. National recognition. Philadelphia, we can win. And the Eagles ain't the only one who can show us we can win. We can win, and we're winning. National recognition for the district's recovery to pre-pandemic education levels. That was hard, y'all. And we all should applaud that. Everybody, city council, y'all helped, y'all funded, y'all went out there and helped us. Thank you. Financial health and just great energy, synergy around the whole sector. And I know the whole story has not been told, the whole sector of public education. We did that, and we will continue doing that. Now today, this slate's collective expertise is a testament to our city, and it embodies our mayor's vision for one Philly. I got my finger in the air, Mayor. Inclusive of a world-class education system for all children, no matter where they are educated. To illustrate, to my right, Joan Stern, an attorney and graduate of Girls High School. I bet y'all didn't know that. Skin in the game. Graduate of Girls High School. Back when it was right across the street from the CCP in Masterman's building. But she's about that life. An attorney and graduate of Girls High brings a wealth of public finance knowledge, navigating fiscal challenges with unparalleled precision. She has receipts. Wanda Novales, Pastor Wanda Novales, former district and public charter educator, balanced, and now faith leader, enhances our ability to govern a public system of education that educates the growing bilingual populations. We need that. We need that. I'm not done yet, I'm sorry. Cheryl Harper's extensive human resource expertise, combined with her state and local experience as an educator, strengthens our capacity to govern effectively. I mean, I can't find a weakness in this slate. Crystal Cubbage, versatility in creating and maintaining strategic partnerships. I've been hearing that since I've been on the board. Partnership, public-private partnerships, intergovernmental approach. What's up? Combined with her state and local expertise, and maintaining strategic partnerships will be invaluable as we seek to further align with Mayor Parker's, and I've heard the call from others, but Mayor Parker called for the cultivation of public-private partnerships. Chow Wing Lam, dynamite. I've been in the foxhole with Chow Wing Lam. Analytical prowess has been essential in implementing governance frameworks that drive student success. Let's go. This is complemented by Joyce Wilkerson, wide breadth of experience. And I'm gonna say a few words about Joyce Wilkerson because I've been in the foxhole with this dynamite woman. Little do people know that this sister was one of the beneficiaries of the Brown versus the Board of Education. It was a part of the first class that desegregated the school. Did you know? Well, maybe that's why she's a little gruff. Maybe that's why she's a little like, I'm tired of this stuff and we gotta get this thing right, right? 2, she went to a great law school. And as for the lawyer, Joan up here, I think you know, there's multiple paths that open up to you to go to a great law school. She could have clerked for a judge, but guess what she did? She came to Philly and worked for Community Legal Services. That's Joyce Wilkerson. That's Joyce Wilkerson. On top of that, she said, I'm gonna serve even more. She keeps coming back for more, y'all. She served at City Hall with Mayor Street, I'm almost done on this. I'm like, why are you talking about Joyce? But I'm not, I'm almost done. But one more thing. After Katrina, she raised her hand and went to New Orleans and went to help. And she came back for more again. Joyce Wilkerson. Whitney Jones offers a national perspective on finance and charter school management, expanding our educational pathways. Come on, y'all. Returning board member Sarah Ashley Andrews brings her counseling expertise, as she said, in nonprofit leadership, providing robust, essential tools for board governance. Indeed, as a current board member and interested citizen, this slate is loaded with talent, temperament, and nuance necessary to govern this district in the right now. Did I miss any? I hope I didn't miss anybody. I got everybody? I got y'all? Okay. Finally, as a black man, I'm committed to leading by example, inspiring more black men to actively participate in the civic and educational spheres of our community. There is a gap of black men who are educated, who came through the system, who raised their hand like good brother Isaiah Thomas and said, we will serve. We need more of us. My lived experience as a product of Philly, a family of 2 children, with one on the way, as I said earlier, in public education, and as a lawyer compels me to serve with my heart and my head. Passion, servant leadership, and pragmatism. I know that this slate aims to further the city's collective mission of making education the great equalizer. After my interactions with these 8 amazing individuals, I believe it is safe to say, and I'm sorry, I'm a lawyer, so please excuse my passion. I'm a lawyer, so I advocate. I believe it is safe to say that we are dedicated to ensuring that every child, every single baby in Philadelphia receives a world-class quality education, empowering them to pursue their dreams and contribute positively to society. I'm eager to continue this journey. I am at your service, as I have been, and I hope to continue to be.
Thank you. Next, the chair next calls for Ms. Joan Stern.
Thank you, Council President Johnson. And thank you for honoring me by inviting me to be nominated, considered for confirmation to the Board of Education. As members of this council and the council president know, I am at the end of my legal career. I retired from private practice September 30th, 2023. What I wanted to do in my retirement was to serve one of the governments I had represented, and I sought to become a member of the Board of Education, whose schools I attended, whom I was fortunate to represent as bond counsel and special finance counsel. I think my acquaintance with the council president goes back to his time in the General Assembly. So he is well aware, as many of you council people and staff members are, that I worked fairly tirelessly to improve the credit, the market access, and the funding for the school district of Philadelphia. And I now hope to do that as a board member, to share what I have gained in the 50 years that I worked with the school district, with the board, and I'm very, very impressed with the board nominees that I have been included in. This is an exceptionally diverse and talented group of people. I've known Joyce Wilkerson since she worked in Mayor Street's office as chief of staff, and we struggled with credit issues and economic issues for the city, for the gas works, for some of the city's other utilities. And I'm very impressed with the reappointment of the board members who are here today already serving, and with the new members who show what Philadelphia can produce. I would like to just briefly touch on my own experience in the law, because I started as a paralegal at a law firm now known as Blank Rome LP, and was assigned to work on my first public finance issue as a paralegal under Governor Shapp, with the necessity for issuing the first disaster relief bonds in the country. So if you look in your Constitution and you see mention of the Great Storm and Flood of 1972, that is our amendment, an emergency amendment to the Pennsylvania Constitution that allowed us, before FEMA existed, to issue bonds for our local share, the Commonwealth share, to put our people who were living in tents, which we could see from the turnpike if we were going back and forth to Harrisburg, living in tents as a result of this Force 5 hurricane, the Great Storm and Flood of 1972, known as Agnes. Not surprisingly, working on such an important project that restored homes to individuals whose homes had been destroyed by a natural disaster made me want to practice public finance. And I decided to pursue a career in the law and work on public finance projects. I managed not to be deterred by the fact that there were no women in that field. And when I graduated from law school and joined Blank Rome as an attorney, I became one of 2 women in Pennsylvania who practiced public finance law. We used to joke that we could convene the entire female bar in public finance by going to the ladies' room at the same time. So I too understand what it means to be excluded and doubted. And I am here to tell you that because of the education that I got in the school district of Philadelphia, even though I went to Houston School, then what was known as the General Lewis Wagner Junior High School, and 17th and Spring Garden Girls High for 1 year. Those were all built by the WPA in the 30s. Those buildings are still in use in our school district. I think our children deserve better than that. They deserve to be able to attend school at any time of the year in a place that's clean, well lighted, safe, and where they can study to the best of to achieve careers that allow them to rise to the best of their abilities, whether they learn a trade or whether they become scientists like my fellow nominee, Crystal Cubbage, an engineer for NASA as part of her career. I hope to share what I've learned with my fellow board members, with Dr. Watlington and the staff and teachers at the school district, and with the children and families whom we all must serve and advance. Thank you again for letting me appear today, and I'm prepared to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Stern, and I remember that story about associating and gathering with the bar, because at that time there was few women in the legal field. So, I mean, it's definitely an honor seeing you up here for the great work you have done for the city of Philadelphia. Most people don't know you did the bond work for the Eagles Stadium and probably every other major project here in the city of Philadelphia. So welcome back to these chambers. Good to see you. The chair next calls up Ms. Wanda Novales. Ms. Navalis, you can start. Just state your name for the record and begin your testimony.
Sure. Good morning. My name is Wanda Novales. Dear Council President Johnson and honorable council members, thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. To my fellow nominees, I am honored to share this moment with all of you. I truly respect you all, and I cherish the experience and institutional knowledge that all the nominees bring to the table, especially Joyce Wilkerson and Reginald Streeter, and all our returning board members. My name is Wanda Novales, and I'm the executive pastor of City Reach Church, which I founded in 2013 with my husband, Mark Novales, and our two sons, Mark and Joseph, in the Tacony section of Philadelphia. In 2023, we expanded and opened a campus in Kensington, a neighborhood near and dear to my heart, as it is where I spent most of my career in education. I moved to Fair Hill from Puerto Rico at 9 years old, and I'm a proud district graduate. My two sons are district and charter school graduates, and I earned degrees in education from Temple and Cheney University. I began my career as a bilingual teacher and proudly served as a school district principal. I am also the founding principal and CEO of the first primary and middle years IB World School in Philadelphia, Pan American Academy Charter School, serving one of the city's poorest zip codes. That's my resume. But today I want to share my passion for quality education for all students. When I became a teacher, my father was very disappointed. His dream for me was much bigger. He would say, "Mija, tú nunca pierdes un caso." My dear child, you never lose a battle. You need to be a lawyer. You were designed to fight for others, and I did. Throughout my career, I have advocated for the voiceless, forgotten, and overlooked. As a kindergarten teacher program coordinator, I advocated for equal funding for bilingual programs. I designed and implemented a dual language immersion program against budget challenges. As a school district principal, I fought tirelessly to have my building renovated, leverage relationships with higher educational institutions, focus on teacher development, retention, and higher achievement. As a founding school principal, I dared to believe that my students deserved a world-class education, to be fluent in 2 languages, to be engaged in learning in a beautiful state-art facility, and to travel the world. I secured funding, managed a new building project, and our students outperformed all neighboring schools. I wish my dad was here today because I believe that he would agree that this is part of my greater purpose. I have fought, I am fighting, and I will continue to fight to provide all Philadelphia students the quality education they deserve. I welcome the opportunity to serve our city as a member of the next school board. Thank Mayor Parker for her nomination and appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. The chair now calls Mr. Whitney Jones, excuse me.
Good morning
Good morning.
to Council President Johnson and the other members of this body. My name is Whitney Jones. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I am humbled and honored by Mayor Parker's nomination and the opportunity given to me by the nominating committee to serve on this board. I began my career in public education 10 years ago. This is after leaving several years on Wall Street. What I found was I wanted to use my skills and talents to support communities and build for the future. Since then, I've held a variety of roles supporting charters in New York, Texas, Washington, D.C., and most recently, Philadelphia. My work has included tackling such challenges as compensation for teachers and other staff in the buildings, securing funding for new facilities, and managing through good times and bad, including the most recent pandemic. When I began my career in public education, I believed public education was the great equalizer to many of society's inequities. While I still believe there is truth in that statement, I now know that there are systemic barriers that limit student achievement prior to even arriving at school on a daily basis. Delivering a high-quality education in a city as diverse as Philadelphia is no easy task. The historical context, coupled with the complexities of operating school systems in most major cities, including housing and food insecurities, teacher recruitment and retention, ever-changing demographics, and supporting populations with heterogeneous needs, create what could feel like insurmountable challenges. However, I don't believe that's the case before you today. The mayor and the nominating committee engaged in a thoughtful process to select this slate of candidates. I am new to serving in this capacity. However, I'm excited. I'm excited to learn from the experiences, tenacity, and leadership of the current board members who volunteered to do this work again, including past President Wilkerson and current President Streeter. I'm excited to work with the new board members to bring new ideas and perspective to make the best decisions for our kids. With the mayor's vision for One Philadelphia, for One Philly, the diversity of skill sets and perspectives of the slate of nominees, the partnership with the school district, as well as this legislative body, I believe we'll be able to achieve great things for our city. Again, I thank you for this opportunity, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Whitney. Next, we're going to ask for Ms. Chow Wing Lam to begin her testimony.
Good morning, Council President. Good afternoon, perhaps. Good afternoon, Council President Johnson and members of City Council. I am Chow Wing Lam, a South Philly resident, a charter school parent, a proud graduate of public schools, and a board member serving since 2022. Thank you for the opportunity to testify as one of Mayor Parker's nominees to the Board of Education, and thank you, Mayor Parker, for the great honor of your nomination. I believe, as I've heard many in this room attest to, that education is a human right and a public good. The investments and choices that we make in our educational system has an outsized effect in shaping life trajectories and disrupting or perpetuating societal inequities. I was raised by a single mom who brought 3 children to this country at the age of 27. For my fellow parents out there, the age of 27, we were 1, 3, and 6 years old and spoke no English. She worked 6 days a week, 12 hours a day for meager earnings, and taught me a lot about sacrifice. Working hard and persevering was my way of repaying my mom for her continued sacrifice, and public education was pivotal in lifting us out of poverty and giving us a chance at success. I have since dedicated my career to ensuring opportunity and access for children and families regardless of background or circumstance. As a college student, I tutored students at Henry C. Lee and the former Charles R. Drew schools in West Philly. I traveled overseas to teach at a middle school and learned how another educational system works. I later worked as a consultant to human services agencies to address operational and budget challenges that got in the way of keeping kids safe. I've also worked at the school district to align resources and efforts around early literacy, and at a nonprofit to build up, develop, and support school leaders. Through these experiences and others, I've gained valuable skills in finance, operations, data analytics, policy, and performance management, all of which I employ regularly as a board member, co-chairing the policy committee, examining and monitoring academic progress in our schools, lending a lived perspective as a first-generation student and former English language learner. My approach as a board member is data-driven, student-centered, and collaborative. I am excited for all of Mayor Parker's nominees and what we bring to the table as a collective board. The wisdom and steadfastness of Joyce Wilkerson, the energy and insightfulness of Sarah Ashley Andrews, the commitment and drive of Reginald Streeter, And to Wanda, Joan, Crystal, Cheryl, Whitney, who I have not yet gotten to know as well, I cannot be more excited to work with you on this board together for our children, for the city of Philadelphia. Thank you, council members, for your continued support to public education in Philadelphia and for this opportunity to testify as a nominee to the Board of Education.
Thank you. The chair next call from Ms. Cheryl Harper.
Good morning. I feel like musical chairs.
Good morning.
Good morning. Or actually, good afternoon. First, I want to thank Mayor Sherrell Parker for nominating me to the Philadelphia School Board of Education. I hope to be a valuable addition to the school district and to the community. I want to thank you, Council President Johnson, and all of the council members for this opportunity to testify and ask for your support to serve. I believe that together with my fellow nominees, I have the experience, temperament, and judgment to serve as a member of the Board of Education. I was educated in the Philadelphia public school system, graduating from Germantown High. I received my Bachelor's of Science degree from Cheyney University and my Master's degree from Arcadia, which was Beaver College when I was there. I hold certifications in elementary and special education. I also have elementary and secondary principal certificates. I have a supervisor certificate, and I hold the superintendent's letter of eligibility. I taught in Philadelphia as an elementary teacher and was the acting vice principal. I was appointed as a placement officer in the Human Resource Office and later appointed by then superintendent, the late Superintendent Dr. Constance E. Clayton as Director of Human Resources. I spent 30 years working in the school district of Philadelphia. I actively recruited quality staff to assure that our students would have the quality education. I worked with the administrators, teachers, staff, students, families, and community. After retiring from the school district of Philadelphia, I was called to work for the Camden Public School System as Executive Director of Human Resources. In that capacity, I continue to work with administrators, teachers, staff, students, families, and the community. Later, under Governor Ed Rendell's Governor's Institute, I was appointed as a distinguished educator for the Pennsylvania Department of Ed. I was assigned to various school districts across the state of Pennsylvania, helping them to make AYP, which is adequately yearly progress. I left the position to become a site director, adjunct professor, supervising student teachers for Drexel University. I am currently a trustee for Cheyney University, appointed by our past governor, Governor Tom Wolf. At each stage of my career, people in leadership have recognized my skills and talents and called upon me to take on important and difficult challenges. I bring that experience to this position. I am dedicated and committed to assuring that every child is afforded the opportunity to be successful and that no child is left behind. My experience was to provide support for principals and teachers on improving instruction and increasing student achievement using data from diagnostic, formative, and summative assessments, attendance rates, and school improvement plans. I supported principals and helped assist teachers in delivering effective, differentiated instructions tailored to meet the individual needs of all students. I'm sorry, I misplaced. Of all students. The mayor has a vision for quality schools across all sectors, traditional, public, charter, and independent. I share that vision and look forward to working with my fellow nominees and I look forward especially to working with those who have institutional knowledge of the board, school board, and that is the president, Reggie Streeter, Joyce Wilkerson, and also Chow Lame and Sarah Ashley Andrews, who bring some information and some important experience to the school district, and all of my fellow nominees. And again, I want to thank you for allowing me this opportunity to testify.
You're welcome. At this time, we will open it up for members of City Council for
My class.
questions.
What did he say?
Yeah. Oh, God. What's up, little buddy? What's up? He done stole the show.
Does he want us to move?
Chair recognizes Councilmember Jones.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I was anxious to do an opening statement along with my colleague, but as Chair of Education, I yield the mic. But I did want to kind of preempt why public education matters to me. My grandfather was one of the first graduates of African American descent to graduate from Central. My father, a graduate of Overbrook, my mother, a graduate of West Philly High School, they got married. If you know the rivalry, that marriage was doomed from the start. My children, Lamberton and Central graduates, but my grandkids have chosen other paths into charter schools based on their perception of the quality of education that they have. Having said that, I remember being in these chambers. It's my sixth term? And each time a president or a school board presented their vision about education, quite frankly, I didn't quite understand it until now. Under this administration, seeing what guardrails, guidelines you had. If I were giving you grades, some of them you passed, some of them you failed, and some of them you need work on. But that's why we grade and average them. I know from the time we gained control from the state, you've made a marked improvement in that regard. I know during the pandemic, there was no instruction manuals to educate our kids. We, collective we, city administration, council, and you, made it through it without losing too many of our kids through learning loss and through some of the hazards of them staying at home, the predictability of food insecurities. We managed through that to the degree that the counties were envious of what you were able to do to provide laptops and other things to create that. So I don't want us to not say what was done real well. We have environmental issues. Lead, paint, asbestos that we have to manage through with a $6 billion with a B capital improvement need that we have to manage collectively. I would go on and say that where you need help, and I would ask Joyce Wilkerson and Mr. Streeter this one question. Do you think you treat charter schools and public schools fairly? Is there an apples to apples comparison? I've stood on the line with our chair testifying about schools and equity, particularly in African-American charter schools. I've been in the room with Global, who started like the Little House on the Prairie in a church. And even when the school burnt down, they didn't miss a beat. They took kids on trips to the museums and managed through it. But somehow, and I remember this turning point, I was in Mayor Kenny's office with then Chair of his Deputy Mayor for Education, Hackney. And I asked him one question. If you had one child to go through one door on the first day of school, and all things being equal, would you go to Global Leadership Academy or a school that I will not name because they've gotten better since, but at the time, for show and tell, a kid brought a 9mm handgun. Show and tell, someone brought packets of fentanyl. We had to rush the whole class to University of Penn. And I asked them point blank, charter school, public being equal, which door would you take your child through? And he looked me in the face and said, well, that depends on, and that was a bold-faced lie. It was untruth. So I ask you today, and the only issue I have with any of this, because it's fair to, I walk with the hallways with Streeter up at Randolph, where 1/3 of the kids that go through the automotive are now in our vehicle maintenance program for the city of Philadelphia School to Paycheck Pipeline. So you get some good grades. But the one that I need to hard check you on is, do you treat all schools fairly in your evaluation? I've been at way too many of the advocacy hearings, and you treat me nice, polite, you boom me up in the line, let me speak, but at the end of the day, it falls on deaf ears. So, two-part question. Do you always treat them fairly, and do you have it in you to treat them fairly under a Parker team? Question.
First, can anybody hear me?
Can't hear you.
I don't know if the mic's, can you hear me now? Yes, thank you for that question, Councilmember Jones. Yes, I can speak to my experience being on the board for 3 years. I can speak to the fact that the Board of Education, even through the Accelerate Philly process, created a unifying mission and vision inclusive of charter schools. And what I can also speak to is that the Board of Education has aspired to treat all schools fairly. But, I'm sorry, is there a counter? And I think it's important to talk a little bit about what are the tools at hand that can be utilized by law as it relates to charter schools and district schools. Under the law, we're allowed to create things like Accelerate Philly and goals and guardrails that enshrines the same things that I believe charter law is trying to also implement through board governance, through academic achievement, high standards there, and also as it relates to the financial domain. And I believe that since I've been on the board, and even before then, I believe that there has been a strident work being done to treat charters fairly, and I have data to prove it. So for example, under the Board of Education, we have increased the size of the charter sector by 2,000 seats, even though there's about 7,500 vacancies in this space. On top, and I could tell you where those seats were. Kensington, Richmond area, Mariana Brachetti, Franklintown High School, Franklintown Elementary School, North Philly, Esperanza, 368 seats, Eugenio Maria de Hostas, 310 seats, Antonia Pantoja, 50 seats. Northeast Philadelphia, Mast, 650 seats. Keystone, 300 seats. Mast 3 Smedley, 25. Southwest, Montessori, 82. West, KIP West, 125. And if the board has not non-renewed or closed the charter in 2 years, even though the performance framework says maybe that's a possibility. So I do believe that we are trending in the way of being fair and utilizing the tools that we have under the law to work with charter providers. But sometimes we have to make tough decisions, especially after we know there's been 15 years in some cases of trying to work with charter operators to make sure that we're all doing what we need to do for our babies.
Let me just say, I'm going with the team Mayor Parker has recommended, because if she's responsible for making the meals, she should be responsible for the groceries. So but I do not subscribe that you've been fair. You can't tell me that. The question I have today is, can you be fair going forward? And when Hackney said that to me and said, yeah, I would take my kid, you're in a room full of politicians. We can hear it. Question is, we know, or most people know, that there's not an apples to apples comparison. Question is, going forward, under a Parker administration, can you be fair? Because let me say this, agnostically, I care about good schools, period, right? Period. And my grandkids should not be playing whatever external factor politics. There's a school to prison pipeline we have to break. There are 48 zip codes in the city of Philadelphia. 19 of them produce 90% of the inmates on State Road. And conversely, there's where the failing schools are. We got to stop that. And I don't, all that other political who's on what team, I don't care. And I want you not to care. And I trust Mayor Parker in that respect. And I want to and will trust you in that respect. But I kid you not. Hear this on the record. If we can't treat them fairly, I take tough tax votes. Am I right? You haven't lived until you knock on a door in Roxborough and say, hey, I'm Councilman Jones, I'm here to run for re-election. Oh, and by the way, I raised your taxes. You ain't lived. So I got skin in the game. But if you want me to continue that, you got to show me you're fair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Jones. Colleagues, as a heads up, we will have 7 minutes each in this round, as we typically do in all of our committee of the whole hearings, okay? The chair will recognize Councilmember Phillips.
Thank you, Majority Leader Captain Gilmore Richardson. Today, I just want to begin by saying this is about our children. One of the things that has always been important to me with my interactions with people is about listening, being collaborative, and not having a mentality that I got it right, I know it all, I'm everything. One of the things that has been really helpful for me is that even coming on city council is that I've had a host of people, friends, family, colleagues, who have said, Anthony Phillips, here's where you're doing right, but here's where you can get better. If you look around this room, this is why we are here today. We have charter schools from North Philadelphia, West Philadelphia, South Philadelphia, Southwest Philadelphia, Northwest Philadelphia, and Northeast, who have had it up to here with how we have not listened to them. I am not a person who will say that I'm an expert on everything when it comes to the school district of Philadelphia. Though I'm a former educator, though I'm really great with college access and all that stuff with young people. But what I will say is this: I'm really good at listening because I want people to be treated the same way that I want people to treat us. And right now, unfortunately, there's a lot of listening that has not been happening. We have one of the best schools in the Alany area called Aspera. At times, they may not meet the mark for academic achievement. But there's times but they strive every single day, and actually they've been growing every single year. This particular school, these parents send their children to these schools because, one, there's safety, they feel a sense of culture, they feel a sense of community. Unfortunately, whatever reason some parents make decisions of choosing their schools, some parents can send their kids to private schools and other paid schools. These parents send their children to these schools because of certain values that are reflected. I may not necessarily have an opinion on pro-charter versus against charter, but what I do know is that Aspera is working for families. And if it's not working in your eyes, how do you do better? I'm talking to the old board. How do you do better to help them become the best that they could potentially be? How can you make sure that they're successful? So the question that I have for all of you is, if you can grade yourself as a board member, just like we have to grade our children, the previous board, where would you give yourself as a grade on that grade? And will you champion public charter schools as vital partners in creating a system of great schools that better serves Philadelphia students and families? This is for our old board members, our seasoned ones, excuse me.
I'll take that first, especially as the current board president. I'll give myself a B. And the reason why I'll say that is because there are things that we have implemented or that we have directed the charter school office to do, such as creating a window of time where charter leaders can come in and say, there's a little issue with with how maybe we reported something. Can we come in and talk about it and fix it so it doesn't knock us out of the, knock us out of, into a place where we don't want to talk about renewal. For example, this board did something for the first time ever. Southwest Leadership Academy was on the pathway to closing. And the Board of Education reversed itself 9-0. Every single person up here voted to bring the school back online because, number one, we're guided by the law, which is what we looked at. We're guided by student achievement and students. But also the school shows signs of student achievement growth under extreme financial issues that may have been happening that I'm hearing that they're rectifying. On top of that as well, the board of that charter school showed the willingness to be an independent a mini board of education, to further give the operator of the school, who's an amazing educator, the tools she needs to be successful. That's the story that needs to get out of here. Yes, and again, I hate to go back to the data, but again, the Board of Education could have now renewed many more schools in the last 2 years, and we did not. Why is that? Because we're trying to give grace, but we also have a legal duty to under the law, and if we don't do our duty under the law doesn't work. So I will give myself a B on that reason. I say, look at what I've done, look at what these individuals have done, look at the data, look at the seats we've increased, look at the composition of the founder or leader of those schools, BIPOC. I just gave you a list of where they are in the city of Philadelphia. That's how you judge us. And I think we're doing we've done an okay job. We can always be better. I'm a lawyer, I'm used to getting criticized by my clients, we can always get better. And I believe that this is momentum, and I think we have the slate, I'm gonna bring it back to the slate to take it to the next level, to keep up the standards. So I think that's the story that needs to be told, and I'm gonna turn it over to other board members if you wanna answer the question.
Councilman Phillips, thank you for your question. I would also give myself a B. There always is room for improvement. We can work harder at, our jobs as school board members. You said something, though, that caught my attention. You said in our eyes, right? We don't make decisions just basically through our eyes, right? There's a framework and there's charter law that we have to follow, right? That we have to follow. And I think that how can we improve? We can improve by being more transparent. We can have more transparent conversations, right? We can bring more people to the table and have these conversations. But I don't want anybody in this room to think that we just sit and make a decision based on our own opinions. There is charter law and there is charter framework. And I am excited to have that conversation with anybody about what that is, what that framework is, and what charter law is. Because that's what we follow. We don't make decisions based on opinions. Thank you.
You're good now.
Okay, thank you. I would also, I think B is an appropriate grade, and I will say that every single charter decision that we've made has been a difficult one, and I stand by every single decision that I've made because I've taken the time to do the research, to understand the data, to do what's in the best interest of our children. In terms of the question earlier by Councilmember Jones about fairness, and in terms of standing for public charters, it's important to see the board's role within the process. As authorizers and as fiduciaries, an authorization decision allows the pass-through of public dollars to support a charter school which the district no longer has management authority over. And certainly, we have a charter school office that lends support, that evaluates charters, that does visits, ensures that the practices and the performance of the charters align with law. We don't have the authority to remove a school leader, to change the staffing, to do many of the things that we can do with district-managed schools much more quickly and within our purview, because according to the law and as the state sees it, the charter schools are governed by their own boards. So once we make the authorization decision, that decision has granted an authority to a board that now has authority over the school. And therefore, every single decision that we make as a board is a difficult one, is an important one, and we do not make any of these decisions lightly.
Yet, there are times where you can make a decision to renew a charter based off of some stipulations. And there's been times where we have not done that. Just wanted, as a point of information. Last question for me in this round has to do with the following. Beyond the charter school problem that we clearly see here, last June when I came in Philadelphia City Council, I was told that we would have, from the School District of Philadelphia, a facilities plan by that June. Now, as June coming up, there's no sight of any new facilities plan. We keep getting numbers and information about facilities plans, and nothing's happening. Leveling has been an issue for decades. It wasn't until City Council worked with the community, with Catherine Gilmore Richardson, and all of a sudden leveling is changing in the school district. The question that I have for you is that, is this board, new and old, right, the ones that are being reappointed from last year, are we going to usher in radical change to our education? Or are we going to just continue to be suffice to the necessary norms around our infrastructure plan? Because right now, we have none. We don't have one. $2 billion on the line that the governor has mentioned that he could potentially look into, amongst so many other things that the state has, not the government, the state has talked about, state officials that they said they could talk about, but we have not gotten to the point of accessing that money, and time is running out. And I'm like, what are we doing? Who are we holding accountable when our children are living in asbestos buildings under terrible conditions? To me, that's just unacceptable, and do we have a sense of urgency around our infrastructure?
Excuse me, yes. I'm happy to address that question, and thank you. I think the outgoing board shares the same concern.
Chairman, can you speak up?
Yes, I'm sorry. The outgoing board shares the same concern. And in a second, I'm going to share what we've done and how the plan has actually already started. And maybe we haven't done a good enough job socializing it, but I'm going to do that here today. But I think it's important to note that currently there is a capital budget of $21.3 million for new construction, including, can you hear me? Okay. Right now there's a capital budget allocation. I think that has to be turned on. Yeah, you want to come over?
Just switch. Yeah, he might as well just. Mr. Schroeder, you might as well just sit right there. Stay right there. Oh, it's coming.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Thank you. We share the same concern, and as I've said, I don't know if everybody heard me, the plan has already started, and I think we haven't done a good enough job socializing that plan or the work that's being done toward it. But before I get into that, I would like to just talk about the capital improvements that are already been underway and that will be underway going forward. Right now, there's a capital budget for new construction, $21.3 million for construction. It includes $145 million in ESSER funds to support state-of-the-art educational facilities. Right now, we have 6 approved new projects in the pipeline, are done. One being Lincoln Athletic Field relocation, Solis Cohen, T.M. Pierce, Cassidy, Amy, and James Martin Home. In addition of that, we have there's additional budget highlights and additions and major renovations. The capital budget allocates $58.6 million for additions and major renovations in support of our utilization. 11 projects in various stages, 7 new projects, Ethan Allen, Anne Frank, Diston, Mayfair, Ronhurst, Richmond, and Shellcross Garage Campus, 4 major renovations, Forest, Meehan, Pollock, and Pratt, 8 new projects, 2 new additions, Fox Chase Farms, 4 major renovations, Bach, Martin, Bethune, Fittler, and McClure, 2 major renovations, including modular additions to Comley and Hopkinson. Also, it doesn't stop there, $78 million for HVAC controls, electrical systems. I have more. I don't want to go, and then there's $15 million allocated to the Sayre Pool, which is a thing that had a lot of energy and shows that we listen. But on top of that, I would just add that the process has already started. And I think what the board and the district is trying to do is learn from our mistakes. We've tried to do this many times and we didn't go through the requisite steps that I'm going to go through right now. And if you don't do this, it's dead on arrival, whatever the plan may be. 1, develop a strategic plan, accelerate Philly. What does that matter? We believe that the academic programming should inform what you're building. If you want science labs in every classroom, right? Some of our old buildings, sorry to say, the infrastructure can't handle it, circuits are overloading, we can't have that. So you have to think about that before you build a building and what you're building it for. And we believe that partly the facilities plan should be informed by that. So that's complete. And that was completed, that started June 22 to June 2023. So I'm gonna give you dates too.
Mr. Chairman, could you also have your team and administration provide that information to members of council, please?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Proceed.
Develop an RFP process to secure a data strategy vendor. June 23, September 23. Why does that matter? We want to make sure our data is right. If we build something with bad data, what are we building? We might be here in 20 years doing the same thing over and over again, asking why didn't we take a little bit of time to go slow to go fast. 3, develop academic baseline standards. Again, that's through your Accelerate Philly. How many students does it take in any school so that it's economically viable to give students everything that all the babies on the main line gets in their classrooms? It's a certain critical mass of students that you need, but also the academic programming has to inform that. Phase 4, develop a swing space plan. This has a dual purpose. 1, as we remediate our buildings and do our due diligence around asbestos abatement and things like that, we got to move the baby somewhere. And we've gotten better at it because we have a swing space plan. Wow, the district has a plan. Yes, it has a plan. I'm not trying to play you. I'm just in my zone right now. Create a data planning strategy, right? That is completed, December 23. Develop a pilot facilities data warehouse. That is underway. And what this warehouse would do will be able to, you can pick a school and say, this school educational suitability is this, therefore this decision should be made here. Phase 7, develop a comprehensive facility data warehouse. And that is underway right now. And in phase 8, develop facilities plan project team. That's to be determined. So just so you know, the plan is underway, right? And we get it. We want to run fast too. Trust me. Yeah, I mean, I went to Germantown, right, which we sold for $100,000. That's another thing we got to think about. What do we do with our infrastructure and our facilities? But we're trying to be thoughtful about this thing. And I think we're asking for grace, and I'm telling you exactly what we've done, and we have the receipts to say what we're doing already, and we're not sitting on our hands, because that's what we're doing.
Thank you, Council President. But I just want to say, I understand that renovation work has been happening. It feels like large-scale maintenance work in a lot of our schools. And I appreciate the work that's already been done. Some of them that we as council members have pushed for you all to do, which is wonderful. But what the public is demanding is transparency. We need you to come into the neighborhoods, listen to them the same way we do, and then tell them, here's what is happening, but have a timeline. Because I tell you, for whatever reason in government, you can go year after year without having results and still maintain your job. Whereas in corporate and nonprofit, you don't deliver results, you don't keep your job. And so for you to say grace, one of the board members was been here since 2016, no longer, some of y'all been here for a long time. You cannot understand, if we emphasizing, you want people to trust. This is not about personal. Trust is built. Trust is about collaboration and listening. What I would have appreciated, and I appreciate that you sharing the facts, but what I'm saying about how this board needs to work, and not only just this board, but this entire administration, this entire team, we have to be able to say, we have a vision. We're going to push that vision. But how do you include all of us in your vision? How do you listen to make sure that we're working together collaboratively? There's no ego. There's principles about how we are doing things together. And so all I ask is that the responses that I hope from our board members is say, I hear what you're saying. I'm going to do better. How can I get better? How can we collaborate to work together? Because these people aren't foolish. There's a reasons why they're here. And we have ways and they have answers to our answers. So we can't just be gung-ho with this idea that I'm right, gang mentality. I'm right. We have to have this sense of collaboration. And that's how we build the best city of Philadelphia. And I knew that only because I only took this crazy position in politics. There's a lot of politics with this right now. Because I believe that people have oftentimes utilized their ego to push an envelope. And that's not fair. We gotta find a way to be listening, facilitating, and collaborative, and find ways to get solutions, because you're right. We're all in this together. But I just hope that this time around, we see that this council is about collaboration, we're about radical change, and we're about finding ways to get to solutions immediately. Because that timeline, we do need a date. We do need one. So please, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Chair recognizes council member. Just real quick, Chairman Streeter, also, do you have data? I know you mentioned several different capital projects that are in the pipeline. Do we have diversity and inclusion numbers in terms of black and brown contractors that we're using? And it's just a question I've asked in the past and introduced resolution around hearings in terms of the district, because it's like $1 billion industry, and we just want to make sure we're addressing the issue of making sure that we're the safest, cleanest, greenest city in Philadelphia with economic opportunity for everyone. We share the same vision as the mayor. Part of that is addressing poverty by making sure black and brown people have an opportunity to participate in all of that money that's being spent in development that's taking place with the Philadelphia School District. Do you have any numbers that you want to share with us?
Council President, excuse me. I don't have that data on me, but I do know just as an exemplar, Brother Perlman, who Perryman is this principal person building the beautiful school that's coming at Cassidy. So that's an example, and we're working it.
Okay, just you and your team, just provide that to the chair and members just for the record. The chair recognizes Councilmember Isaiah Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to get right into it.
First of all, I want to just start by piggybacking on Councilmember Phillips' question around facilities. While I appreciate let me take a step back. First, I want to thank you all for being here and thank you all for your testimony, because the reality is that listening to the credentials, especially of the new members, I do commend the mayor for the diversity and the lived experience of the new members that's been selected, and that is something that should be commended. So thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to push back on the facility stuff just to get us started. No, I'm not. I'll come back to facilities in a second. Let me go here first. I listened to you all talked about institutional knowledge, right? I've heard this term come up a lot. And I'm listening to you all praise who the mayor was selected and specifically talk about the importance of maintaining certain school board members. Cecilia Thompson and Lisa Sally were not selected. What are your thoughts on her, on them two?
I think they're both amazing.
I'm sorry. I apologize, Board President Streeter. Somebody besides Board President Streeter answer that question for me.
I really appreciated both both board members Thompson and board members Sally as colleagues. I thought that they brought valuable perspective and experience to the table. Board member Thompson is a strong advocate for students with specialized services, and she saw through a lens that was not directly apparent sometimes in conversations and really pushed the way that we provided services to this population of students.
You're not worried about losing their institutional knowledge?
I believe that we have an amazing slate of nominees right here.
Me too.
There are
But you all talked about institutional knowledge and the importance of institutional knowledge. So I'm wondering, does this institutional knowledge that you're concerned about only apply to certain board members and not to other board members?
If I can
I'm sorry, not Board President Streeter. I would like somebody else to answer my question.
Institutional knowledge is not a person-specific trait. Institutional knowledge refers to having been in those shoes, tried to push certain initiatives, and understanding what it takes to succeed and the factors that have led things to fail in the past.
Okay, I was just curious. Let's go on to facilities. Councilmember Phillips raised questions around a facilities plan. When I became the chair of the Education Committee in September of 2022, the first request I made was for a facilities plan. What I listened to today was a lot of renovations, a lot of things that's happening as it relates to capital issues, but that's not the facilities plan. I want to be very clear. A facilities plan would talk to us about the future of Strawberry Mansion, Overbrook, and Martin Luther King High School. Councilmember Jones, do you know about the future of Overbrook? Do you know what we're going to do? We got some issues there with the facility, student enrollment. Are we going to build a new one? Are we going to close it? Are we going to downsize it? Has anybody told you about Overbrook, Councilmember Jones?
Work in progress.
Okay, all right. So then I think about schools in the Northeast, like Washington, Northeast High School, Lincoln High School. All these schools have a growing population, right? So we have some schools where the buildings are underutilized. We have other schools where the buildings are overflooded. And then we have this reactive mindset that we've seen early on during the pandemic, where we found out there was all this asbestos in all these schools that somehow, some way, none of us knew about. Who was present and who governed our schools when the asbestos crisis hit the fan? Who was that? I'm asking. I mean, because I remember voting for Board President Streeter. I remember voting for Sarah, and I remember voting for a lot of other people. I don't remember you guys being there when the asbestos crisis was created, but I remember us having multiple meetings because we felt like the previous leadership had brushed some things under the rug as it related to the facilities crisis. So how do we now sit here and say that we have a facilities plan and no council member has ever seen this facilities plan?
First, I would like to say, you're right. We don't have a plan for, hey, this is what's going to happen in Strawberry Mansion, but I believe I did set forth the vision that the building should flow from the mission and the vision of the institution to educate children, educational suitability, the amount of students that it requires in a school building to have all the things that our babies need. I did say that.
I mean, Board President Streeter, you know how I feel about you, sir. Nothing but love for you, absolutely, no question about that. But that's not a plan. The governor wants a plan. Harrisburg wants a plan. In 2022 of September, I asked for a plan. It is 2024, and I'm being asked to vote for the same people that I asked for a plan that I did not get a plan from. I'm okay with that. We can move on. Let's talk about a couple other things that are really important. Councilmember Jones talked about treating charter schools the same way you treat public schools, right? That's not my area. My area is, why do we treat white charter schools different than how we treat black charter schools? I want to be clear. I said in my opening statement, this decision today is not about charter public. This decision is about children. Nothing else but children. But we had a report that basically communicated concerns, and let's be honest, when we were making decisions around who the lawyer was, City Council and the Education Committee pushed back on who the lawyer should be because we did not want the school district to be the client. Now, I'm no lawyer, but I know that if I'm the client of a lawyer, then that lawyer works for me. We wanted to be the client. City Council asked for this study, not you all. And similar to how you were reactive to the facilities crisis, because I listened to Board President Streeter talk about a swing space in the facilities issue wasn't a part of the plan. It was a reaction because of what happened with Building 21 and other facilities, and we seen children in limbo, so we said we needed a swing space. And that was a great decision, Board President Streeter, but I want to be clear. We're talking about things that are reactive. So in the midst of looking at what happens with black charters and white charters, one of the things you all said was you created 2,000 new seats. How many of those new seats are black? First question, while you look for your data. Second question, over 80% of those charter schools that's been closed in the city of Philadelphia are black. Somehow, some way, over 80% of the charter schools that have been closed are black. White charter schools like Franklintown and Northwood commit egregious violations and they're allowed to stay open. Fine, whatever, that's not my fight right now. But I'm wondering, how are we going to sit here and say that we're okay? I listened to a board member say, I can stand on every decision that I've made, and then you change your own vote. How can I say, Council President, that I'm proud of every vote that I've taken, but I switch my vote? You can't have it both ways. So somebody needs to help me understand how many new charter seats have gone to black-led institutions out of your 2,000, and how can we sit here and say that we treat black charters fair when black charters make up 80% of the schools that's been closed, not under this board. Let's be very clear, not under this board, but there are people who were on the previous board when over 80% of the charter schools that were closed were essentially black, when black-led charter schools make up less than 25% of the schools in the city of Philadelphia. And then you're going to tell us that that's not racist. I'm no economist. I can do math. I'm very good at math, but I'm no economist. There has to be some metric that you're using that's totally different than us when 25% of the schools that are 25% of the schools are black, but they represent 80% of the closures. Help me understand this information.
Yeah, I'm happy to, Council Chair Thomas. To answer your question, and I'm going to actually include BIPOC schools because I think they matter as well. I know you do too, good brother. Keystone, 300 seats out of 2,000. I believe that is a black-founded, black-led, has been defined charter school. We also added 368 seats to Esperanza, and Eugenio Maria de Hostas, 310 as well. So that's a big chunk, I think, of the 2,000, right? Number two, we are actively trying to...
Point of information, I just want to agree to disagree. I don't think that that's a big chunk. So I hear your number, but I said black schools, so I'm fine with what you said, but I don't agree that that's a big chunk.
I appreciate you, yes. And on top of that, we have tried to hold Franklintown. Actually, I had to get special privilege to not be at a hearing right now where we are in the middle of hot litigation trying to start the process to determine whether there should be a revocation of a charter, which I'm now being stopped and tax dollars are being used to defend the school.
And I want to commend you that you're doing great work. But earlier you said that not you, but earlier it was said that you all stand on every decision that you've made. So you stand on the fact that it was a good idea to give Franklintown more seats, and now we have this retroactive problem that we deal with. So that wasn't a mistake to give Franklintown more seats.
I wasn't a part of that vote, but I'm talking about in particular issues around the closure of charter schools,
I
the
know
tough
that's,
decisions we have
but
to make.
with all due respect, Board President Streeter, that's why I'm trying to remove you away from answering some of these questions, because 90% of the questions I'm asking, not necessarily within your jurisdiction or within things that you've said at this hearing today. So I respect the fact that you want to have your colleagues back. I'm a team player myself, and I'll ride for my colleagues all day. But I think it's better if somebody else answers these questions, because most of the things that I'm referencing as it relates to these comments and the data that I'm communicating, they're not necessarily you. So you could do a victory lap around the advocacy work you've done as it relates to Franklintown. I've stood neck and neck and shoulder to shoulder with you, and I'm proud of you of that. But you didn't sit here and say that you're proud of every vote and every decision that you've made, and you would not change any of them. That was somebody else that said that. And I don't understand how you could say on the one hand that I'm proud of every vote that I've taken, but then you've had to reverse your vote. I don't understand how you could say on one hand, I'm proud of everything we've done, but then we got to go back and take action against Franklintown because that institution is looking to use a report that was supposed to address issues around racism to defend their stuff. I'll leave it at that.
Chair Thomas, if I could briefly respond. From my understanding, that data as it relates to schools that have closed, some collapsed on their own or closed on their own. So yes, they might have closed, but it might not have been due to board action. I want to put that out there even before my tenure as well.
So what are some of the schools that, no, never mind.
I don't
We can answer that question.
Yes. I wanted to respond because you asked about the comment that I made earlier of standing behind my votes. Board members make the votes that they do with the best information available to us at that time. And if significant changes in the fact and the data are later found or surfaced, then in the best interest of the students, sometimes votes can change.
And I thought you would say that. So my next question, who gave you that wrong information?
I don't believe that we can characterize the information as wrong.
Oh, sorry.
Information is updated
Your
all
word
the time.
what was the word you used? You said misinformation, right?
I did not say that.
So what was the word you used? You said things changed. You used the word originally. You said when people give you blank.
When we have updated information,
So who gave you the information that wasn't updated? The who?
The CSO actually.
The charter
gave us-
school office.
And
Who leads the charter school? I'm sorry, not you, Board President Streeter. Who leads the charter school office?
Information about schools and that enter into the decisions that we make are fluid and change all the time.
Who gave you the information that wasn't most up to date? You said the charter school office, right?
The information that I have right this second is
No.
going to be
We
out
talk
of
about
date
old
in 10
decisions.
seconds.
We talking about previous decisions. Who gave you the information that wasn't most up to date? You said the charter school office, right?
We do rely on information provided by the
Who
charter
runs the
schools
charter school office? Who runs the charter school office?
The School District of Philadelphia.
Who is the name of the person who has the charter school office?
A lot of people have done it over the years.
Come on, Council President. Who is the name of the person who runs the charter school office, and what did you recently do with this person?
Chief Peng Chow, who can I please add this context? I think it's very important.
Board President Streeter, I asked you not to answer the questions. Who runs the charter school office?
Our charter schools office is led by Chief Peng Chow and a team of very qualified people.
And didn't the same person that leads the charter school office, the person who didn't give you updated information and then you gave him a raise and a promotion?
No, it's not accurate.
Board President Streeter, with all due respect, sir, you have my vote. I don't want you to answer the question. I will be voting for you, sir. Who leads the
Respectfully, Councilmember Thomas, I'd like to understand what the intent of your question is.
With all due respect, Council President, this is a city council hearing, and I don't think it's appropriate for them to ask me what the intent of any question I have is when I've already made a statement that my intent is to make a decision today that's in the best interest of the children. So I'm not quite sure, Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, how that works, but I don't think that's an appropriate line of questioning to be asking myself or any member of city council in the midst of a hearing where we're here to take a vote that's in the best interest of the children. Am I out of line, colleagues?
You're not out of line. So
Thank you, sir. All right, so back to my line of questioning, because I believe that my original point in all of this was that we treat white charters different than how we treat black charters, and I think the place that I was going specifically with this line of question is to identify racist behavior that existed before any of you all got here. So here's a question that you all can answer, anybody who wants to. Why are you so defensive about things and decisions that was made that are clearly racist that were made before your tenure?
I do want to add context, and I have to the question. What changed, the vote I was talking about was the Southwest leadership vote. It wasn't.
Board President Streeter, I know it changed. My point of going to that line of question was to show that we all sometimes make decisions that we regret. And I think it's disingenuous to come before this body and say that you all haven't made any decisions you regret when you had to go and reverse your decision. To me, that's disingenuous.
But it was a different decision.
But now we've moved on.
Okay.
We're now talking about racist behavior. So if you could answer the line of question that's being asked now, that would be appreciated.
I would answer the call to question. Yes, sir. Yes, Councilman. And I'm saying this with all due diligence and all heart. As a black man, I get it, right? I get when there's a feeling of something, but as a governmental agency, it would be governmental malpractice if we did not find out whether the exact intent or the exact thing that is being discussed is actually causing the issue. And in the law, we call this disparate impact and disparate treatment. An allegation can get you through the court door, but you have to find out whether there is actual intent, whether there's a smoking gun, which we call in the law. And I think the board has done that with its due diligence, right? Yes, we have embraced. If you look at the press release, we are embracing the voices of the coalition. We are embracing saying those voices matter, but we have to do our due diligence to determine whether someone actually did something because they're racist, or was there a legitimate non-discriminatory reason why it happened, such as breaking the law, such as financial issues, financial mismanagement of money, such as academic achievement that's been slotted for 15 years. Those are the things that we have to look at. And there's records and things like that show why the decisions were made. There's these things called adjudications in which every decision is set forth the reasons. And if those reasons, if you look at them and you take off any lens, you'll see that.
Board President Streeter, you're one of the most intelligent African-centered brothers I know. I complimented the mayor on the lived experiences and the credentials of the people she selected. You have multiple lawyers, you have graduate degrees, you have very intelligent people who I know for a fact love black people. I would put Sarah in that category as well too. 80% of the black schools 80% of the schools that's been closed in the city of Philadelphia are black, while they only make up 25% of the population. Yes or no? Those numbers aren't racist to y'all? Yes or no? Let's just move it to another place. Let's move it to the law field. Let's move it to the therapeutic field. Black therapists only make up 25% of the population, but 80% of the people who've been charged with crimes are black therapists. Black lawyers only make 25% of the population, but 80% of the people who are charged are black lawyers. Black people only make up 25% of the population, but 80% of the people who are arrested are black people. Those numbers are alarming. My son is 11 years old. He just got out of school 38 minutes ago. He's a math guru. If I gave him them numbers, he would say, Dad, there's some statistical problems with that data. If I'm 25% of the population, how can I be 3 times the number of closures? And you looked at us and say, that's not racist. I'm done with that line of questioning. Let's move on to school district stuff. Goals and guardrails. And again, I'm voting for y'all. So this isn't about that. We talked about the academic progress of the school district of Philadelphia, and while we made a lot of decisions during the pandemic that council disagreed with and the board might have agreed with, we can agree that there has been some progress. But let's not compare us to other large schools across the country. Let's compare us to where we want to be. Are you happy with the test scores, math, and literacy of our children? What are those numbers right now, and what number would make you feel like we've done the job?
To answer your first question, I am not happy. And I think that's the energy that the board that I currently sit on, and I believe that the new nominees in the new slate will sit on as well. And that's why Goals and Guardrails exist. In the past, this school district did not focus on student achievement. It focused on everything else, and that's what the Goals and Guardrails does, where we actually progress monitor in public. We get national notoriety for doing it to drive system change from a governance model. So so I think that's to show you that we're not happy and that something was done with it as well.
I would agree with you. Well, how many of our children are reading proficiently right now? How many of our children are proficient in math? What percent?
Give me 1 second, let me find the data.
Council, you know what you could do? If you can get that information to the council president, that'll be appreciated. I know other members have questions. Council President, I'll stop right now. I'll come back for another round. Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome. Chair recognizes Councilmember Kathy Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Council President, and thank you to our colleagues for all of your questions. I too want to commend Mayor Parker and her team for the hard work and the heavy lifting that was done to get us to this point in the process. I do recognize the importance of the work that was done and am very appreciative of the group that we have before us today. And I'm thankful for the testimony that you all provided, and for those of you who I've had the opportunity to work with, thank you very much for your service. I wanted to start where I started this morning. I had the opportunity to be back at the Philadelphia High School for Girls for Career Day this morning with our colleagues, and also was fortunate enough to be on a town hall last night of over 300 parents, alumni, teachers, students of the Philadelphia High School for Girls. So to see Joan Stern here, I am truly thankful and grateful for your work. I remember you very early on in my career have tried to emulate your work in municipal finance. I've studied you since I've been here over the last 25 years. So thank you very much for your service as a fellow Girls High girl. You all know that I care deeply about the public schools. As a graduate of Gompers, a masterman in the Philadelphia High School for Girls. Currently, my oldest is a graduating senior at Carver High School for Engineering and Science by way of, she moved here when her father and I got married, so she came from the Chester Public Schools and then went to Mastery Man Charter School, and then finished her academic career at Carver High School. And you know that my two youngest are at Gompers Elementary School, and you also know that I taught in the Philadelphia Public Schools by way of Overbrook High School, so I care deeply about the public schools. I wanted to start at Girls High and then also talk about leveling. Thank you for the decision around leveling. It's something that we all work very closely on together. It is extremely important to the success of our young people. No major school districts in the country are doing leveling anymore, and so I want to thank you for making that important decision and rearranging the budget to do so. I want to start at Girls High. I'm very concerned about the future of the Philadelphia High School for Girls. We have one class that only has 88 students. When I graduated, there were almost 400 students, and previous classes were much larger. We know that this is a result of unintended consequences with this new special admission policy around the special admission schools. And so if you all could speak to how you are looking to course correct around the implementation of the special admission schools, the admission policy, to give principals and leadership members at schools the autonomy to pick young people off the list, particularly when they are not at capacity. Girls High was capped at 200 students that they could admit this year, and out of the 200, I think only 83 or 88 have chosen to go to Girls High. I'm very concerned about the future of my 175-year-old alma mater, and we really want you all to do something to help Girls High moving forward. Can you please speak to how you are looking at the special admission policy and how you will specifically help the Philadelphia High School for Girls?
I'll be brief, and I've been doing a lot of talking about it, give other board members an opportunity, nominees to talk, chance to speak. I share your concern, and it is something that that I know for a fact that the superintendent right now is working on, wanting to be that close collaborator with you and the city and all the stakeholders. But with that, just again, I think it's a strength to course correct, right? And I know there was some conversation about that earlier. And I think I'm going to talk to the special admit piece, which I think is actually going to help and has already started to help Girls High as one of our schools. We know the special admit process had flaws when we course changed. And the district and the board didn't say, we're the smartest people in the room, leave us alone. What we did, we leaned into it and tried to fix it and work it out by listening to our principals and things like that. And I'll be very brief.
And because I just want to say this in particular, because I've been going to Girls High once per month this entire school year after the incident occurred, along with visiting a number of other CTE schools that I visited with some of you. And Girls High is slated to lose 6 teachers that are integral to the IB, the International Baccalaureate Program, and the Advanced Placement classes. We do not have the ability to maintain teachers because of the projected enrollment. It is all because of the new special admission policy that was implemented. No course correction has happened at all. Girls High has been without a permanent principal for a year since that incident took place, and all the alumni, students, and teachers wanted Principal Lisa Misi back. She was one of the best things that ever happened to the Philadelphia High School for Girls. And so we don't feel heard. We don't feel as though anyone cares about Girls High, and I do have other matters that I will discuss, but it was 300 parents and alumni on the call last night. And I have to represent for my alma mater, the school that gave me so much, the reason why I'm a member of Philadelphia City Council today. Please do something to help us with the Philadelphia High School for Girls. And we need a concrete plan. We need concrete commitments. We need the ability to enroll additional girls for this upcoming academic school year. We have to do something. And I don't want to just, I don't want everyone to think that I'm just focusing on Girls High, because a number of schools across the district need help and assistance, and this is happening at other schools as well, including my daughter's school at Carver High School. And I didn't even think that she was paying attention. She came home and said, "Don't you work in city council? You need to do something about what's happening at my school and some of the other schools that my friends go to." So this is also impacting the children. And this is all about the children and all about the students and their future and their academic success. So can you please speak to what's happening, not only at Girls High, but across some of the other schools, and how you all will work to fix this?
Thank you, Councilmember Gilmore-Richardson. I just want to let you know, this is a conversation that we are having as a board, and this is not the only school, as you said, who is affected by the selection process. We believe that there is a place for the centralized admission, but then also an important need to ensure that schools can continue to fill empty seats and not cap their enrollment at only the students who reserve or enroll during that process.
But they're not allowing Girls High to do that.
We hear you, and we would definitely take that back to the superintendent, and we will work through this like we work through other things with you, Councilor Gilmore-Richardson, going forward.
And I just want to say that we hear you and we understand. We went through the same thing with Saul. I'm a graduate of Saul. Saul is going through the same issue right now. So we understand there is an issue, right? I want y'all to know that we do sit in meetings and hold people accountable, right? We do lose sleep over these kids that are not being able to get into these schools or whatever the case may be, or are not being re-engaged, right? Because there's some kids that just aren't being re-engaged, and we have to work on it, right? So I want you to know that we are diligently trying to fix this issue, and we will continue to work with you, but we hear you and we understand.
Please, this is a number one priority. In addition to that, I just quickly wanted to mention, and I'll come back on the second round, 2 things. Services for our young people who need additional help, who may have IEPs, like speech therapy or other services, and also our young people reading on grade level. Since COVID-19, and a number of our young people who were either in pre-K or kindergarten or 1st through 3rd grade during the pandemic, they are struggling with reading. And we need the ability to work with the district to provide additional reading resources for our young people. It's something that we are going through as a family. It's something I've heard from a number of other families. Our young people must be on grade level with their reading. You are learning to read from K to 3, and then you're reading to learn thereafter. and we need to help our young people get on reading grade level all across the school district. How are we doing that? What additional assistance will you all put in place to do that? And finally, this council has stepped up year over year since I've been here, even back to when I was a staffer. I remember being in rooms in 2011 at the height of the economic downturn, coming up with MOU with the district, and former council member Maria Quinones Sanchez worked through some steps that we knew the district would take as a result of the council body voting on additional funding for the School District of Philadelphia. We recognize that in the mayor's proposed FY25 budget that there is a proposed millage shift from 55 to 56 that would give additional funding for the School District of Philadelphia for the upcoming school year. I do believe that we need to work together on a memorandum of understanding on some of the goals and outcomes that we anticipate and or expect as a result of that continued increased funding that you all have seen from this body year over year. But can you please speak to the reading grade levels?
I'll be brief, and thank you so much. First, Accelerate Philly. I think that is the first answer to the question about English language arts and the points, the valid and thoughtful points you made. Also, there's a new curriculum coming out next year. One of the issues in the School District of Philadelphia is for so long we've had like fragmented curriculum where students over here are learning this and students are learning that. Also, the superintendent is looking into the #1 factor to move student achievement: high quality teachers, stable over time, and well supported. That well supported part is very important and key as well. And so that's something he's looking at as well. How do you incentivize our teachers who have shown the ability to help students, all of our teachers can, to the schools that they need to go to. And then number 3, I watched a press conference about what's going on right now in collaboration with the city and the mayor and council. I saw the council president was there. Right now there's a program this summer for students who need a little bit of extra help to come to a school district school for the first half of the day and get your learn on, right? And then at the second half of the day, you can have fun and do what children should do in the summer. So that's our answer to your question. But many board members want to.
And I'm going to go respect the clock and honor the time, Council President. I am very well aware of that program. My children have attended that program. I know the program very intimately. We need additional resources for young people to get on reading grade level. It is not enough. They need specific instruction to help them get on reading level so that they can succeed academically in their future career endeavors.
I agree with you 100%.
Okay. Thank you, Council President.
Welcome. That's a good program. My kids was in the program too, but the buildings were hot. And so, but I'm a hood kid. I grew up in the city, so I'm kind of used to not having air conditioners, going to Childs Elementary School and Edward Bach High School. But I am excited about that program because it's the summer slide that we want to make sure we address to make sure all of our young people are on the right path from an academic achievement standpoint. So definitely going to be supportive of those efforts. The chair recognizes Councilmember Ketty Lozada.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you all for being with us this afternoon. We just heard the frustrations expressed by Chair Member of Education, Isaiah Thomas, and as a member of that committee, I share those frustrations, and Board President, you're aware of that. I think I've been very clear in our meetings. And if those are the challenges that Black charter schools are experiencing, can you imagine Latino-led or bilingual charter schools, right? I think that oftentimes we are left out of the conversation. And so I'd like to hear a commitment from this new board and from those of you who will stay on the board that Latino charter schools will not be an afterthought, right? I represent the poorest zip code in the city. I represent some of the lowest performing schools in the city. I represent schools in my community, charter and public schools, that are challenged with keeping qualified teachers in our spaces. I represent some of the schools that have or see the very serious conditions in facilities. You know, the facilities in the 7th Council District and across the city are deplorable, right? And I've only been here 17 months. My colleagues have been here much longer than me. And I share the Education Committee's frustration on asking for a plan, right? I'm sure that as people were being asked to be a part of this new board, they must have done their due diligence and probably have started to listen to the conversations during Education Committee or during this legislative body's council sessions. And so I'd like to hear from the new members, right? What would they recommend, right? Based on what they have heard, based on them considering becoming a part of this, of your board body, you know, what do they think needs to happen to better improve communication between not just the charter school office, but between the school and the charter school offices, as well as better communication in the community? How does the decisions that you all make, how are they felt on the ground and in the neighborhood?
Thank you so much for the question, and it's really at the heart of why I'm even here. I do believe that we will speak up for all students, African American students, but also the Latino population, which now consists a quarter of the population of the school district. And I also served in the community that you're talking about, both as a school district principal, sat in a school that had not been painted for 15 years, and started in a charter school that was a 100-year-old building that the school district left, which was the old Hunter School, to start the school there. So I'm very much familiar with deplorable conditions in a school. I cannot speak for the existing facilities plan that the existing board has worked on, but I would tell you that if I am here and even willing to serve, because I believe that our children deserve to be in schools that have a standard of excellence. We know that long term we're going to need new buildings and facilities plans, but just to open buildings that are clean, that smell good, that have equitable lighting, we need that in our schools, and I will do my best serving in this board to fight for that, not just for Latino students, but all students in our city.
Thank you. What do you think, how do you think, and President Street, this is probably for you, we have some newer facilities like Kensington Performing Arts, who is a newer facility, but is also experiencing challenges just maintaining the facility, right? That space has over 47 windows, something very simple, that are broken. And they have put in multiple requests for repair, and they can't get a response to it. So if we're talking about the seriousness of facilities, and we can't maintain the ones that are newer now, what is there to be said about the lack of response that we are seeing now and that we may see in the future?
Yes, thank you for the question, and I share your same concern. I mean, I went to the Germantown, where it was very hot, as Council President said, throughout the year, and it did impact my ability to focus in the learning environment. But what I can say is what we have done as a Board of Education. Through our goals and guardrails, we have something called Safety and Welcoming Schools as a guardrail, and we monitor things like work orders, right? We monitor things that actually matter, and we monitor those things, and we see what the trends are, what the district is doing, and how the district can better, as the operator, operationalize this stuff and get better. And based upon the trend lines, it looks the district has gotten better. And some of the stuff is actually because our buildings are very old, and some of the qualifications and the people who do the work there's not enough, because some systems are so old and obsolete that we can't even find people who even have the expertise to fix those systems, and those things slow down the process and the progress that we can get in. But we've beefed up our capacity, and it's something that we monitor, and I do believe we're trying to make headway there. But yes, it is a concern. I'm not going to gaslight you. This is real, and it's something that we're actually working on through our goals and guardrails.
Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome. The chair recognizes Councilmember Jay Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. Some of my questions are the same. So first of all, I want to say good afternoon. And I want to say, I commend you all for your efforts to work for our city for free, right? And to do these things, that a job that is thankless, and a job that has the burden of our entire city. So I want to thank you all for wanting to step up to the plate to do it. My line of question rather, is similar to what Council Member, Chair of the Education Committee, Isaiah Thomas was talking about when it comes to the charter office, particularly the pattern I see of discrimination in charter office. In a past life, I represented a property owner who was trying to lease a building to a charter school, a charter school that was excelling. But the process of trying to move from one location to the other and dealing with that charter office was a very interesting process, I would say, from a perspective of an attorney. And Mr. Streeter, I know you said, as an attorney, I know there are certain things that have to be found for it to be discrimination, but 80%, I think a court will find that that's a disparate impact, right? The policy appears neutral. On its face, it appears neutral, but when in reality, when you're implementing these policies and you see that it only affects one demographic of people, something has to be wrong there. Like, that's just not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence at all. And so I think we need to take a deep dive at what the institution of our school district is doing when it comes to educating black children, because the majority of students in that district are black children. When you look at the things that are going on in our society, the issues stem from black children. And if we are going to continually not pay attention to the issues that the bureaucracy that gets in the way of educating black children, then I think we are doing a disservice to our city and to our children. So one question I do have is, when it comes to holding folks accountable, right? Because I do think that everyone needs to be held accountable. Charter schools need to be held accountable. Traditional schools need to be held accountable. And I do know it is a little bit easier to hold charter schools accountable because of the quasi-independence that they have, and just dealing with the structure of the school district. But why is it that when I see a school like Strawberry Mansion, like Ben Franklin, with these abysmal numbers, why are they not held to the same standards? When they're educating the same students, the same population base, why are they not held to the same standards as a charter school would be in that same community?
I'll take a quick stab at that. I think it's because we have two different mechanisms under the law to hold accountable both sides of the sector. As you know, that the charter law requires that there's a 5-year renewal window where there's 5 years of independence, where the Board of Education, the district does not have the authority to go in and check things out and dictate what needs to happen. What that does is it trades away the ability to kind of have a different accountability metric. The independence comes with accountability, and it's actually baked into the law. There are things we have to look at: financial wherewithal, the independence of the charter board, academic achievement, higher academic achievement than what is purported. Is the school a petri dish of education in a way that's new to the sector, and can the district or the sector at large learn new things from it? Those are all the things that require us to, through the law, to hold accountable, right? For the district has a lot more autonomy and agency, and it uses goals and guardrails. And if we can get the charter sector to buy in goals and guardrails, I think that's a good move. And maybe that's something we can talk about going from here. But the goals and guardrails is, for the first time in the history of this school district, we look at the data and we ask the question. And we've aligned the superintendent's evaluation. And now for the first time in history, 440 is going to have an evaluation system that aligns with a shared vision and goal. And I think that's why we're seeing the academic achievement moves that we're having. But the charter law doesn't give us the ability to do that. What it does, it says you got to wait 5 years. And sometimes you got to wait 5 years and watch something trend in a way that could lead to a collapse, which we've seen as well the last 2 years, and wait on the sidelines and then do something in year 5. And I think that's the thing I think that's missing in the conversation, that we have different tools prescribed by law. That's an above me now moment with the state that precludes us from doing the things that you're talking about. And we have tried. We've created conditions. This thing called surrender clause probably has a bad name. Those things were created to give charter schools another shot and then another shot. Some of the schools that have closed, unfortunately, have had maybe 3 or 4 charter terms where there's conditions that weren't met that those charter schools agreed to. And I think that, and I know now, I know now that the charter school office, hearing anecdotal information from other Black-founded leaders, and I'm not going to say any name on the record, this is the best they've ever had it with Mr. Pung Chow, right? We're doing things. We're trying to give grace. We're trying to pivot. So that's my answer to your question. We're trying to balance our state delegated duty, right, as fiduciaries of the School District of Philadelphia to these babies under the law, with the grace that the law gives us in the gaps. And I think we're using the gaps now to be more gracious.
Thank you. And on those same lines of it's equity, right? We're trying to be equitable and treat every school the same way, and treat every school fairly, because again, the premise is the best interest of the children, and I think we have to keep that in mind. And so, I guess you gave me one recommendation on what we can do regarding how we can gain more equity, I guess, in the treatment of these schools. But can you discuss, I guess, when the school board is evaluating, these frameworks, particularly like the goals and guardrails, what type of equity lens does the school district look at when evaluating, equity in hiring, right, and equity in representation at the school district itself?
Well, I know that, I can't speak for the superintendent, but I know the board has given a strict directive, well, I won't say directive, well, yeah, we're directed to the superintendent to look at things like equity, whether it's in our contracts and things like that, whether it's in how we actually educate. So for example, in our goals and guardrails, we just found out that there's 9th grade work happening where Black and brown students are having higher student achievement and career readiness because of implementation that he's doing, knowing that the Board of Education cares deeply about equity as well. As it relates to hiring and things like that, I know that, as you know, as an attorney, there's certain things we have to do under the law. You can't pick people based upon your race. You'll get sued. Reverse racism lawsuit, which is actually a win nowadays in court. And by the way, we're being sued as a city right now because of our attempt to change our framework for how students get into our special admit schools by an organization led by one of Donald Trump's acolytes in court right now. People know that. Trying to stop us, saying that we're only trying to help Black children out. We're trying to help out everybody. But getting back on point, I know that through the law, the district is doing everything it can to diversify the whole district.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. The chair recognizes Nick O'Rourke.
And testifying, I'm a freshman here on this body, and so all of this that's going on today is a little newer for me, but I was an organizer before all this, and the concerns I find as an organizer who was a part of the statewide school fight are kind of the same concerns that I have now. The thrust of our office's concerns are around the lack of consistent government oversight and accountability for charter schools in Philadelphia. My understanding is that a charter school, I think you just mentioned this, is only under official review during the renewal process every 5 years, despite having reporting from the charter school office every single year, which means the charters can go years without much accountability, as it looks to us, without much budget, around their budget mismanagement, around underperforming student outcomes. So I wanted to ask all of the new appointees to answer a few questions related to accountability. What is the actual plan to provide more active and intentional oversight to charter schools on a regular basis? If you can just detail that for me.
I think it's too soon for me to speak about a plan because I'm not appointed yet, but I do have a lot of experience in the charter school world, both in the public, and I do think that accountability is important both ways. Accountability leads to outcomes, and I heard the previous council members speak about the difference of both traditional charter schools and traditional public schools. And I do think that there's a lot to learn from both. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of great things happening in charter schools. We tend to speak about the schools that are closing, but there's incredible work happening in charter schools. There's also incredible work happening in traditional public schools. And I think that we need to figure out, and this is me dreaming, I'm not appointed yet, I haven't sat in those difficult conversations looking at that data, but there has to be a way where we can equalize and look at schools for schools. Whether, I think that's part of the problem. It's always the charter schools, the public schools, but can we look at schools? I think that, and the gentleman that was here, I don't know his name right now, but I think we should have good schools, period. Good schools, period, t-shirt, good schools, period, logo, because I do think that we need to start having that conversation. Can we have accountability for traditional public schools? Can we have accountability for charter schools? And can we celebrate the great things that are happening? And my dream will be that one day we can sit at a table and celebrate each other and hold each other accountable.
Thank you for the answer. I appreciate that. That having been said, I'm specifically asking about charter schools because of the point that we raised earlier about the regularity of accountability on that front. For those of you who come from working primarily with charter schools, how do you plan to advocate just as fiercely for the Philadelphia public schools as you do for the charter schools? If someone can answer that question for me.
I'll take that one.
Thank you.
I advocate for all schools and all schools that are doing right by kids. That is charter, that is traditional. It doesn't matter. I want good schools for the kids in the city of Philadelphia. To circle back to your point just a moment ago, or your question around 5 years and accountability, I think that window is important because having been an administrator in a charter school and having worked at an authorizer in DC, one thing I know is that 1 or 2 years worth of data is not enough to evaluate and really give a holistic picture.
Gotcha.
So I think giving 5 years to understand trends and what's really happening at the school is actually very important. Now, what I think it can inform, and I'm eager to work with my other board members and the management and the charter school office, is how can we be very clear about their strengths? Because I think every school has an asset. One thing I want to be clear, one thing I've learned, nobody opens a charter school to do wrong by kids. Say
that one more time.
Nobody opens a charter school to do wrong by kids. So I'm curious to see what assets can we find in that community and in that school district. Where are they having challenges and opportunities? And how do we build out charter conditions that are specific to support that district and to your point, hold them accountable going forward so that the next renewal we have 5 years of new data that hopefully shows progress.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful in terms of the read on why the 5-year window is helpful for you all. Still focusing though on the accountability for the charter, and really the detailed plans is kind of what I was looking for. Let me move on though. This also is to the new board appointees as well. We all know too well that there is an ongoing teacher shortage, and that teachers are leaving the profession for other careers where they're less scrutinized, paid what they ought to be paid, and given more time off, which I think is really good for mental health. How do you plan to support the district in enticing and encouraging new teachers to join in the midst of this kind of toxic educational environment I think that we're currently in? And how do you plan to make teaching an attractive profession again?
Thank you for that question. I run the Philadelphia Learning Collaborative, which is a collaborative of 14 schools. Excuse me, some public, some private, some charter. And one of our initiatives this year was a community of practice where we introduced a curriculum for advisory. A period that's often in schools, a throwaway period, but can be used to transmit whatever a school culture is and really strengthen the entire school environment. And in this initiative of ours, we really elevated teachers as professionals. We paid them generous stipends to explore this curriculum and implement it in their schools. We made them actually in charge of implementing, the PDs that they were teacher-led PDs. So I think we need to make the profession attractive. There needs to be the professionalization of teachers, and some of the other issues we talked about regarding facilities, regarding the selection process. It's the environment, it's the ecosystem, and I think we can't deal with making the profession attractive in a vacuum. We're going to need city council for funds to make the environment better. There's policy issues at the state level related to certifications. I mean, I know people who have come from out of state. We have an initiative, I think Tamir's here in the audience someplace, the Center for Black Educator Development. I know one African-American principal that came up from down south who was an amazing educator who had a hard time policy-wise, like what the rules are for becoming a principal in the school district of Philadelphia. So I think these are some of the things that we can push and pull on to make the environment more attractive. And then let's think about, at SLA Beeble, for example, there's a CTE track now for education. What does it look like for students in schools right now? How do they see teachers? And this particular program is putting students on a track to become teachers. But we have to make the experience that students are having in schools attractive so they consider it as a profession. So those are some of my thoughts around what we might be able to do. I hope that answers the question.
It does, and I thank you all for your answers. Council President heard the bell. I'll come back around for the next round.
Thank you. Just a real quick one as we talk about the recruitment of teachers. I remember early on when you first took your tenure and you gave your presentation among members, and we talked about a book that both of I like is Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. Jawanza Kinjufe. I remember you saying that as a part of your presentation, and some time ago I introduced a resolution to host hearings when Dr. Height was here around. What are we doing with a sense of urgency to hire black teachers, right? Let me change that. Specifically, black male teachers, right? And from time to time, we'll hear parts of strategies, right? But what are we doing as a district to really aggressively come up with incentives? Is a part of the strategy moving forward, a plan? Is there a budget allocated to it? Like, what is, from that aspect, what is the board working in partnership with the district to make sure we get as many African-American male teachers inside our schools?
Well, what is the district doing right now? Right now the district is engaging with Brother Sharif Al-Mekki, works hand in glove with him as well. I know Dr. Watlington has put, the board in partnership with Dr. Watlington in Accelerate Philly plan, that is actually one of the things that the superintendent is right now driving. In addition to that, we also have a paraprofessional program where paraprofessionals can actually go to college right now in the School District of Philadelphia, get their degree, their bachelor's degree, or if they have a bachelor's, get their teacher certification, and come right back to the School District of Philadelphia right now. We also have a middle college model, which is part of our CT program at SLA, I think Bieber, where students right now are learning right now to be student teachers so they can come right back to the schools of Philadelphia. I know that we have a lot of, we have a lot of work to do here. I'm not gonna tell you that, but that is what's being done right now. And I believe this slate of amazing board members, and I would like to, if Cheryl Harper wants to add anything, she just came up here, but I believe this slate can take it to the next level.
Thank you, Ms. Chair recognizes Ms. Harper.
Yes, we had a program when I was in the system of hiring black males because there was a lack. I think it was like 1% of the professional staff was black males. But as you know, now it's like 90% of our, almost 90% or 85% of our students are African American. But back then, most of them were African American. And what we did, and this is maybe something we need to look out after, is that we brought in people who had degrees who retired from their jobs. They weren't really old, like maybe retired when they were in their 50s. We were able to obtain emergency certificates from the Pennsylvania Department of Ed with a guarantee that the male teachers would go back and get certified, permanent certification by taking a few courses. And so a lot of them did. One of the problems that the program eventually failed wasn't about the male teachers. They were excellent. But there was a movement by people saying it was racist. And my answer to them was, it wasn't racist when we only have 1% black males, and yet the majority of the teachers were white males. The white females were second majority, and then the black African-American females were the third, but the black male was 1%. So we may want to look into that again, because we do need a role model for our children, especially our black boys, to see that. We also had a program where we brought in people from the trades who actually were teaching children carpentry, engineering, electricity, plumbing, sewing, cooking, male and female. And they had the experience, so all they had to do was get a few credits and get certified to do that, and that worked out well. But due to funding, that was tossed out. And I have to agree with Crystal when she said that we need to make this a professional job. You know, without teachers, none of us would be sitting here. And if we do not start to pay our teachers for what they are worth, when I came into Philadelphia, we were the highest paid school district in the city, in the state. Philadelphia became the lowest, and so people started going out to the suburbs, to other states in Jersey, Delaware, because they were paying more. We need to bring back professionalism. Teachers are the core. Without them, we have nothing. You know, our children will not learn if we don't have professional, adequate teachers. And when I went out and recruited, and I interviewed everybody to make sure we had the right and proper students. So we need to look back at that.
Thank you very much for your response.
Here, you can sit here.
Thank you. I don't even have to sit down.
I appreciate
I have a lot to say
appreciate
about
the
this.
enthusiasm.
While we're shifting seats, I'll just add a couple quick notes as well. I think there is a fundamental responsibility for us to ensure that school is a good experience for our black male students. You don't get black male teachers when our students do not enjoy school. So I think that's thing one. And then I think as a district, we need to celebrate and surround supports to those people who step up into the teaching profession, just like everyone said, but especially if they are representative of a population that's not representative among their peers. So I was delighted to celebrate principals. I believe it was this past week, but maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I don't know. I was just delighted to celebrate our principals with 3 black men being there and to see the delight in their school communities as well. So I'll hand over to.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So we talk about getting black teachers into the profession, and teachers, period. There's a teacher shortage nationwide. Pennsylvania used to be the biggest producer of teachers. We're no longer that. And I think that we also have to give consideration, and you know, it keeps coming back to money, to what supports, what mentorship, what ongoing assistance teachers get. So I know there's some teachers, and teaching is hard. It is
Absolutely.
hard.
Sure is.
And so we need structures, like intentional structures, that actually support them. And there needs to be some safety nets for teachers who struggle, because it takes 3 to 5 years to make a really good teacher. And what's happening now, you've seen some of these laws. What's happening now is that, oh, you went to the Army, you can be a teacher. I myself, I will say that I transitioned into teaching. You know, like, people call me, you know, all kinds of things, hidden figures all the time. And It was arrogant of me to come into teaching. I went to private schools. That was the list was a private school list because I thought I would try it out before I went to go get training. And it was one of the most difficult, it was more difficult than working at NASA, so I can say that, right? And so the mentorship that you get from more seasoned teachers, and you have to pick the seasoned teacher. Are they advocating progressive models? Are they student-centered? Are they authentically getting students ready for success after they graduate from high school? So, I mean, all of those things come with a price tag, but if we can be intentional about setting up the structures that will actually support teachers in having a long, rewarding career in the profession, that's what it's going to take. A school board alone can't do that.
Thank you very much. The chair recognizes Councilmember Nina Maad.
First, I wanted to echo my colleague Jay Young's comments about thanking all of you for doing a job that is not only difficult, but not rewarded by, I think, a population at large. And that really speaks to where we value education in our culture. How we value teachers in our culture. I am the daughter of a teacher who was a social worker turned teacher. She was a Montessori trained teacher, and I watched how much work she did after she came home. You know, how I helped her cut out shapes and this and that as she did the work. But that, it was a calling. It is a calling for us and for you to sit there as a board working with our school district to make sure our teachers, our students, our staff have the best possible circumstances is a yeoman's job, you know, given how little we value education in our country here. I think we need a Marshall Plan, right? Just like we had after the Second World War about how we sent resources to Europe to build them. We can't send resources to our own school, to own country here, the first world country with the most resources available, yet we are having 5% rates of achievement in our children. That's criminal. That is absolutely criminal, and we are all accountable for that. All of us sitting here, every one of us need to really put our children first and figure out what it needs to happen to make them successful on a global stage. And yes, thank you. I'm so happy to see a NASA engineer. I am a scientist by training, and I think we need strategic planning. So this was a question asked of you by my colleagues before, is to see what kind of a strategic plan do you have in concert with the school district from your vantage point to see how we are driving, making our children ready for the global stage. The second part to that is, what is your relationship with council? So I'm very new, 4 months old, and all my colleagues who've been here have told me it seems to be non-existent in this real sense of knowing what's going on, right? Real sense of sharing and collaboration, real sense of making sure we are partners. We go into the community. We go, I mean, there's 9 of you. It's hard for you to do everything. We can be partners in taking your message out so we can have that cohesive look for our constituents to say, we got our, excuse my language, S together, right? We need to show that amount of competency to our taxpayers to say your dollars are being used equitably, your dollars are being used efficiently, and we are going to be held accountable, all of us, for the use of that money to make sure that our children have the best education in this country that prides itself on being first world on so many other things. So that's just my comment. I really want to hear about your strategic plan going forward. By the way, all your bios are so impressive. Every one of you have extremely impressive bios. I had an intern in my office collate all of this, and she's a Temple student, senior. She did a little synopsis of each of you. And it was interesting to see what she picked up as a young woman out of all your bios, and I compared it to your actual bio. Excellent bios. Now, how do we put this to work? How do we make sure that your best ideas are connected to what is the community is looking for, what council is looking for, what the mayor is looking for, what the district is doing? We need to stitch that all together and to have a real cohesive plan going forward that you share with us, that you don't do in vacuum. So I want to hear from all of you, what does that look like? What do we expect, and give us timelines? Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
I can take a stab at this. First, we can do better. And I think that was the mayor's vision when she put the slate together, to have one Philly intergovernmental approach. And I believe that was I know that was in mind, central to the mayor's thinking when she put this slate together. So I think that no matter what we're doing, it's going to get better. What I've offered as a suggestion last year in one of our monthly education committee meetings is that there needs to be a retreat, right? I think the Board of Education in the district, in the summer, I know the summertime, y'all might be out of set, or it's budget season, there needs to be a retreat, because these once a month flybys, things happen. I know somebody might be here, you might have to take your child, because we're all busy people. And information sometimes goes there, and it might go there to die, right? So I think if we can have a retreat where we all respect each other, as we all do already, have a strategy session, and I know the mayor's it's about bringing people together. This is aligned, I think, with her vision. I think this board is raring to go to do that. I think you'll see a different mechanism going forward, and I think that all of our good faith, that we're all trying to move in the same direction, will be furthermore collaborated. So that's something that I would hope that the board be ready to do day one, and I know logistics have to be, and I know this is your chamber, council president. I don't want to tell, I'm going to stay in my place, but board members, nominees.
I have some of the same questions. I actually wrote down, and was wondering what our relationship is with City Council. I have had experience at the district. I was executive director of New School Models, and that wasn't in my universe at all, like what the relationship looked like with the district. I had questions about what the district's relationship looked like with the Mayor's Office of Education. So those are things that I'm keenly aware of. Also in my work, I cultivate a lot of relationships and partnerships to pull multiple organizations in a common direction, and I'm looking forward to bringing that skill to the work that we're going to do as a board.
President, just one more comment. Thank you very much. We would like some deliverables in terms of what that plan looks like, what is the timeline for that, especially around the facilities plan. What does that look like? Who on your 9-member board is going to drive that, so we know that they have the competency with other support, hopefully, to put that together, because all of this is strung together. So I thank you all for your energy. I thank you all for doing this, and I look forward to working with all of you. Now I'm done. Thank you, President.
You're welcome. The chair recognizes Councilmember Rue Landau.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you all for being here. It's been a long day, and my colleague, Councilmember Nina Ahmed, did ask some of my questions. So I do want to start with thank you for the work you do. We are excited for the new folks. Thank you for the folks who've been here for a while. Thank you to the teachers. Thank you to the principals. Thank you for everybody who has been working to keep all of this functioning under very, very difficult circumstances. My grandmother, my aunt, and my mom were Girls High graduates, so I do have to lend my voice to the Girls High cheer. Please take care of that school. It is an incredible institution for the city of Philadelphia. My grandmother taught at Olney High School. There's a lot of tradition here and a lot of excellence in the city of Philadelphia, and we need to make sure that we are lifting it up at all times. I am new as well. I've been doing a lot of advocacy. I've been a legal aid lawyer and been doing a lot of stuff in the city of Philadelphia, but I am new as well on council. So I want to tell you that I am cheering for you. I want to work beside you. We all do. And we will hold you accountable. And I know you expect that, and I know that's part of the job, just as we will be held accountable as well to the constituents throughout the city of Philadelphia. This goes to you, this goes to the district. This is all hand in hand. We must all be paddling the boat in the same direction because there's no other choice right now. We are in an urgent situation and we need transformational change, and we are at a moment where we're actually going to start getting some funding. So let's come up with the plan of what we are going to do with these resources to make the school district of Philadelphia, all of the schools in Philadelphia, the most excellent places of learning that they can all be. Over the past years, I know that it's been critical to have leaders committed to safeguarding the district's fiscal stability, and I expect that the new members will continue that leadership. I am so excited about the new funding that will be coming to the school district that is just years and years and years in the making and needed. What I am hoping that we see from the school district, some of which was just articulated, especially by our new to-be member, Hidden Figures Coverage, Ms. Crystal, is that we need to not only work together and communicate, but do what the mayor has been talking about doing throughout the city of Philadelphia, which is breaking down silos and also making sure we can do what we are doing even for the Commerce Department in Philadelphia. We're open for business. I want to see the school district of Philadelphia open for business for all of us. I want to make sure that teachers, community members, parents, students, everybody have equal access to engagement with the district, and want to hear some of your ideas about that, as well as not only are they going to share their ideas, but it will be listened to and talked about whether or not can you execute on it. We're getting amazing ideas. I've been here for 4 months. People on the ground, our community members, are coming with ideas. They're brilliant. Let's take them, let's execute them. We cannot continue doing things the same way. But as we work for the best interests of our children, you did answer some of my questions previously. I do have just one question I want to ask very specifically, is how you will prioritize the funding to support academic achievement and address resource disparities among our schools. While you're looking, I just also wanted to add, this one's important, that my son and my niece are
Well, I'll say briefly, the Accelerate Philly, I know I keep saying Accelerate Philly, but it was based off of not just what the school district thought. I think we've already kind of piloted this mechanism in getting the district's muscle going as it relates to engagement, where Dr. Watlington engaged with council members, from my understanding. He engaged with parents, teachers, think leaders. He's actually used data, and he actually used the best, for example, our math curriculum now is actually the best curriculum that you can buy, and that's an example of how our funds are driving the change. Another thing that I'm not proud to say, but I am the president of currently the institution that, for whatever reason this occurred, there was an audit by the Council of Great City Schools and said that our science curriculum had not been updated in 15 years, and that's coming, right? So and I think that's what happens. We have a chronically underfunded entity, and I like to use analogies. It is a malnourished entity that may have some PTSD that is working through right now, and I believe we're getting better at that. But we're trying to figure out how to actually fix the problems that need to be fixed. Another thing that Dr. Watlington and I think the Accelerate Philly plan talks about is how do you incentivize the number one thing that moves the academic needle, which is a highly qualified, well-resourced teacher. And we understand we can't do that. So now what are we doing? We hired a superintendent, and I believe that the nominees would agree with this as well, who believes that we have to collaborate with our unions. They're not our enemies. right? Mr. Jerry Jordan and Dr. Robin Cooper and all of our other wonderful union leaders, 634. So I think that is the tax dollars in work, and I think it's also showing that there's been a pivot. And I know that we're fighting kind of Ghost of Christmas Past, and we know that, right? We're going to absorb that, but we're going to do everything we can to change the narrative around that. And that's why I'm even mentioning things like a retreat, right? Things like that, right? And again, even the ideas are starting to flow out of us, right? So that's an example of how we've used funds to drive change as well. And I believe that there's many other things. So for example, we want to have algebra in middle school, right? It's too late in high school. It's too late. But that requires resources, and that's an Accelerate Philly, and that's something Dr. Wallington is working through right now. The mayor's all year round school, out of school time.
Yes.
That's in the Accelerate Philly plan. It's going to cost money though, right? About $25 million extra per 20 schools, but that's, the city council looks like they're going to put their money where their mouth is. So the dollars are working. We have the Accelerate Philly. There's a through line, and then the board on the top of that, it has goals and guardrails where it monitors the stuff and holds the superintendent accountable, where everybody's evaluation is flowing toward the same goals. And I think that piece is important to speak. And I think that this board and the nominees, we're all primed to go to keep this progress going forward. Sorry.
Some of our more recent efforts, particularly affecting academic achievement, are our rollout of comprehensive curricula. As a parent, and even as someone who's taught for a couple of years before, I didn't appreciate how significant this was until I heard the same message being shared back with us, school after school after school, about the math curriculum and how it breaks concepts down and how it layers component pieces of information and skills in ways that were not laid out in that manner before, and how it is the same at every school across the district, depending on which grade level. So I can go to a third grade class, and then the other third grade class across the hall will be doing the same work. And another third grade class at a different school will be learning the same concepts. And teachers can collaborate on how they are working on their instructional plans because they're all working on the same thing. And I'm excited that we are working on the professional development this summer to roll out an ELA program that is a continuum across the K-12 grades and that build upon a lot of the work that has been done around the science of reading so that we can continue to accelerate reading across our district.
Well, I'd like to add that this is also a policy issue. We know that things are happening at the state level around the funding formula. And I believe that we have to work with bodies like City Council to galvanize our citizenship, to activate them around these issues. I recall that Senator Hughes was doing some work and came to some nonprofits to ask us to galvanize our bases. I think that's part of what's going on here too. So, because I know teachers who create their own curriculum and it's amazing. So I don't think it's always just about the curriculum, it's about this holistic approach to what we're doing. And so I think Sarah Ashley and I were talking about how to get parents more engaged. And it has to be the parents who we know are disengaged. And what are the efforts? You know, if we try one thing and it doesn't work, how do we try another thing? And how do we work with City Council and other bodies in the city to move the needle on this? So I think that's part of reducing that disparity.
Can I make one quick plug, feeding off of hopefully future board member. In the Accelerate Philly plan, there is not a plan, the work is already underway to reignite Parent University, right? And I think that, and I believe Councilmember Phillips would appreciate this with the work that he's doing, thinking about old ideas that went away.
Dr. Ackerman, correct?
Yes, and definitely bring up Dr. Ackerman. Yeah.
Probably the most, separate from Constance Clayton, to be quite frank, the most engaged I've ever seen. The parents environment and really meeting parents where they're at, not district board up here, parents down here, but actually listening to the parents in terms of the policies and directions that the city of Philadelphia, that the school district is going into. So I think that's great.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to elevate that Parent University.
I think that's great.
And that is something that is being marked, that is being tracked, and that is a deliverable that will soon to come as well.
That's what's up. I'm going to call on my last member before we go out, take a break and go into our second round. But let's have a real quick question. And when you talk about working in partnership with the unions, which I think is great, it's good to hear that, right? Give me your perspective regarding the School District 3579 policy. The policy specifically deals with teacher absences for personal or family illnesses. And according to teachers who were coming advocating around this policy, it thinks it's unclear and causing confusion amongst teachers across the city, and it appears to conflict with and undermine the district's collective bargaining sick leave policy. Under the terms of the school district collective bargaining agreement, teachers are entitled to 10 sick days each year, and we fully support teachers' right to take leave as necessary to care for themselves and their families. However, the 3579 policy subverts the collective bargaining terms of the teacher's contract by tracking these absences and subjecting teachers to escalating repercussions, including excessive warning memos, recommendations for suspension, or even termination beginning with a few 3 absences. And I kind of paid attention to one young lady during one of the hearings talked about how she missed work because she was sexually assaulted, right? And so, and I didn't really hear any feedback from, the board in terms of if there would be anything practical in terms of a strategy to actually address this issue. And obviously, it's a relationship between the board and the teachers' union. So have there been any progress since then? Or are we looking at possibly shifting and changing? Or from my understanding, and this is a letter that we sent to Dr. Wallenstein, signed by Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson, Jamie Gardier, Mike Driscoll, Chairman of Education Isaiah Thomas, Mark Squiller, Jeffrey Young, and Ketsy Lazada, as well as Kendra Brooks, Jim Harity, Anthony Phillips, Cindy Bash, Julian Dow, Nina Mai, and Nicholas O'Rourke, which shows that the body collectively has an interest in making sure teachers get their due justice in terms of sick leave policy.
And Council President, I want to say that we hear you, the board and its current iteration hears you, and I know that we all hear you today. And I think that we have the right superintendent to just, again, whether it's leveling, whether it's taking a second look at our special admission process, which I heard from Majority Leader Catherine Gilmore Richardson needs more work, and we understand that. So I believe that Dr. Watlington is definitely in tune with this and is doing the work to figure this out. But he's very careful and thoughtful about unintended consequences. I think that's how we got here with the special admit piece. We didn't think enough about the unintended consequence. And I think it's important for the Board of Education, whether it's charters or others, to say we got it wrong from sometimes, right? But we are also showing that we can get it right, right? And I think Dr. Watlington on this topic is the right guy for the right time on this piece as well. And I think it is an old, antiquated policy, and I've gotten educated on it, right? It's an old, antiquated policy that needs to have a second look at. I'm not sure exactly what Jerry Jordan and the PFT with Dr. Watlington, but I know that relationship is warm, and I do trust that. I have all my confidence in Dr. Watlington to ensure that this is addressed.
Thank you very much. Last question for this round, and Chair recognizes Councilmember Jim Harity.
Could I say a little bit more about that question you just posed?
Absolutely, yes. The 3579 policy.
I think this relates directly to the optics of teaching as a profession. If in the news you see teachers protesting because they can't take days off for medical needs, family needs, what have you. So I think it is integrated with some of the other aspects of the teaching profession that we need to take under consideration.
Thank you very much. Chair recognizes Councilmember Jim Harity.
Council President, I'll be brief. My colleagues were very good with their questions today, and I only have a few softball ones that I can ask. But one thing I'm very glad to hear that you're going to be working with getting more parents involved, because that's the one difference I've seen myself between public school and charter school. So my son went to middle school at Gamp, great school, fantastic. Right, okay. And then another one of your schools, he went to prep charter for high school. But the biggest difference I saw was that when he went to prep charter, we had to go in, me and his mother, and we had to sign papers that we would be in that school so much. We had to commit, not only that my son would be there, that we would be available to be there. So I'm glad that you're looking into that parent university, and hopefully that we can get some education for the parents in there also, because I don't know if I'd be able to do the new math that they got out there right now. Thank God my son he's 26 now, so he graduated a little while ago. But the new math that my grandson is doing is really kind of crazy. But just because I live in Kensington, and I've been doing a lot of stuff with Memphis Street Academy, and I went in and I talked to the children themselves about their experience of just what they are seeing on their way to school, and the trauma that they're facing on a daily basis, trying to dodge their way around the neighborhood in order to get to that school. And it actually, we partnered up. They are having, the kids now are doing videos of their experience, and I have been posting them online, so on my Facebook page, so that people could see what actually is happening. So I want to know, does each school have access not only to full-time nursing, but full-time counselors available at the schools? And if not, what are we doing in order to rectify that situation? Because the fact of the matter is that there's so much trauma out there right now that these kids are facing, that, it's not necessarily the school's fault. We're going through a lot of things in society right now that are doing, but from my conversations with these kids, they get it, and they know what they're seeing, they know what's going on, and their biggest question to me was, what are we going to do about it? You know what I'm saying? And they're thinking a lot different than we are. So what can you tell me about that? And does the school board directly communicate with the teachers and the students on a regular basis? Is that something that's happening?
I know currently that work happens at the district, on the district level. The superintendent convenes various groups to have conversations. He definitely has students that he convenes with once a month. And with our student board representatives, they also engage in that space. And first I want to apologize to all students who have to go through any of the trauma. I mean, I can't even say it was as bad as it was, as some of the stuff was as when I was a student, walking up and down Germantown Ave to get to school. This is different. It's a little different.
I went to school in Southwest Philadelphia during the crack epidemic when the JBM and the Jamaican jerk were warring. So, we had some trauma,
right,
but nothing compared to what these kids are facing today.
But what I can add briefly is that whenever there is a traumatic issue, whether it was the shooting of the young brother walking to school at our Mastery Grants campus, the district gets involved. And at that time, it was Commissioner Bethel, who's Chief Bethel, gets in his car and runs there and offers all the trauma support that we can bear. This year, we had this unfortunate situation with Imhotep, one of our amazing charter schools that is doing the work on academic achievement, but doing the work around governance and financial wherewithal. It has a great relationship, a good working relationship with the board and the CSO. But even in those contexts, I can tell you that we, the district and the board, sent out all of the resources, no matter what school it was, whether it was Frankfurt or whether it was Imhotep. Right?
I understand that we're reactionary. So, we react when a trauma thing occurs. you know, I'll just throw it out there. Me, for one, you know, I would like to see counselors in every school because kids have problems daily. Kind of, you know, things I've found in my own life experience that it's not always the bigger things that get you. Sometimes it's those small things that you see on a daily basis. You know, the big shootings and all that kind of stuff kind of come together, the students together, and they talk amongst themselves and they're able to work that kind of stuff out. But it's that underlying trauma that they're not speaking about, the trauma that nobody's talking to them about. And for me, I know full well from my own lived life experience, and I've been very open with that, is that that trauma I faced as a child is what ended up getting me as an adult. And I would like to see us try to cut that out. So it leads me to how can we help in order to get these counselors, more counselors in the school? Because, I mean, that's something I'll pay for. Willing to have the city pay for. I'm willing to vote to add money for counselors. I think that if a kid needs to speak to somebody, they need to speak to somebody, because if they're reaching out like that, we need to get them there.
So number one, we're going to get you that data so we can know what schools are needing nurses and counselors. I'm going to say this as a therapist. One therapist is not enough in a school, right? One therapist is not enough.
But
So
it's a
even if the
start.
school, it is a start, but it's not enough. So let me say this. We do have a program called COOTH. Every student in the Philadelphia School District Public Charter has access to COOTH, where they can talk to a licensed therapist. We need to do a better job with advertising that, right? That they have that access. So we partner with Lane Johnson on that. And, you know, we have big events to kind of talk about it, but we need to, on a daily basis, make sure that that information is getting to not only the student, but to the families, so that they know that they have access to COOTH. And it's free of charge to them, and they're able to talk to a licensed therapist.
Yeah, and again, I think that's great. But again, kids don't ask those kind of things. You know what I mean? They're not going to seek out. But if they have a counselor that they see every day, that they know is cool, that other students have told them, hey, listen, you know what I mean? I talked to Mr. So-and-so, you know what I mean, baby? So for me, I believe that has to be first and foremost, because a kid cannot learn when they have this other stuff on their mind. It doesn't matter how good the teacher is. It doesn't matter, and I know we have a lot of great teachers in the city of Philadelphia. My concern, again, is the trauma, and again, I'm telling you, I'm a vote for whatever we have to do in that aspect of that. But I'm hoping that you're thinking in them kind of lines, because listen, being able to talk to somebody online is not the same as having that face-to-face interpersonal connection.
Go ahead, you can, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, test. Councilmember Harity, thank you so much for lifting that up for us. You are absolutely correct. There's so much research about childhood ACEs, childhood traumatic experiences, and the sustained trauma that you talk about is something that we believe is every bit a part of our guardrail around safe and welcoming schools. I would thank you also for the commitment to fund what it takes. We'd love to engage further as partners as we work to understand how we can better support all of our students, because the fact of the matter is, if a kid shows up in a school and their mind is somewhere else, their body might be there, but their brain is not, we can't do what we need to do to educate that child. So thank you again for lifting that up.
Thank you. So we will break until 3:30, and we will see everyone back at 3:30 sharp. Thank you very much.